The multiverse is a tapestry of infinite realities, each with its own immutable laws. But what happens when a thread from one universe tears through into another, bringing warriors who've never known defeat into a war defined by sacrifice? When soldiers bred to save every life meet an army built on acceptable losses, reality itself must choose which philosophy will survive. The UNSC frigate forward. Unto Dawn's secondary reactor had been failing for 3 days when the Covenant plasma torpedo punched through her port side. Captain Rodriguez never got the chance to order an emergency slipspace jump. The rupture in the Shaw Fujikawa drive opened on its own. A wound in reality that swallowed the dying ship and spat it somewhere else entirely. Master Chief felt the transition in his gut, a wrongness that even decades of slipspace travel hadn't prepared him for. His motion tracker strobed static, external comms filled with interference that sounded almost like screaming. Then the Dawn hit atmosphere. Wrong angle, no control, burning like a meteor across an alien sky. All Spartans, brace for impact. Chief's voice cut through the chaos on the battalion channel. 23 acknowledgement lights winked green on his HUD. 23 Spartans, a full battalion by UNSC standards, Spartan 2s and 3s mixed, the survivors of 100 impossible battles. They'd been en route to reinforce Reach's ground forces when the Covenant ambushed them. Now they were falling toward an unknown world in a ship that was tearing itself apart. The Dawn carved a burning trench across Red Desert, shedding hull plating and reactor shielding before slamming into a cliff face with force that would have pulverized normal humans. Chief's shields flared gold, absorbing impact that compressed his internal organs against his reinforced skeleton. His HUD flickered, rebooted, and stabilized. "Sound off," he ordered, already moving through the sparking corridor toward the troop bay. Every Spartan responded, green lights across his display. Not one lost in the crash. Mjolnir armor and augmented bodies had kept them alive, where even ODSTs would have died. Chief felt the familiar cold satisfaction of a mission parameter met. Protect your team. The troop bay's blast door had crumpled inward. Chief didn't bother with the release mechanism. He simply grabbed the reinforced edge and pulled. Hydraulics screamed, metal shrieked, and the door peeled open like tinfoil under hands that could flip a warthog. His Spartans were already forming up, weapons ready, armor scarred but functional. Spartan 051, Kurt, gave a curt nod. His SRS-99 sniper rifle held with the easy confidence of a shooter who'd never missed a critical shot. Spartan 087, Kelly, was checking her motion tracker, moving with a liquid grace that made her the fastest human alive. The others, veterans of the Covenant War, each one a strategic asset worth a battalion of Marines, stood ready for orders. "Perimeter sweep," Chief Rahal said. "Kurt, find us high ground. Kelly, scout patrol radius. Everyone else, salvage what we can from the Dawn. We don't know where we are or what's out there." They moved with practiced efficiency, fanning out across the crash site. Chief activated his external mics, listening to the new world. Wind howling across barren rock. Something that might have been distant thunder or explosions. And underneath it all, a sound that made his instincts scream warnings. A chittering, clicking noise, like a billion insects rubbing their legs together. His motion tracker lit up red. "Contact!" Kelly's voice came through, flat and professional despite what she was reporting. "Chief, you need to see this." Chief crossed 300 meters in seconds, Mjolnir's powered movement letting him sprint at speeds that blurred the landscape. He crested a ridge and stopped, taking in the valley below. An army was dying. Thousands of soldiers in light gray armor were fighting something out of a nightmare. Massive insectoid creatures the size of warthogs, with blade-like limbs that carved through human bodies like they were paper. The soldiers were brave, Chief noted clinically. They held formation, poured fire into the swarm, died in place rather than break. But their weapons were primitive, conventional firearms that sparked off chitin armor, requiring dozens of hits to drop a single creature. And there were so many creatures. They boiled out of tunnel entrances in the valley floor, an endless tide of claws and mandibles. For every bug the humans killed, 10 more appeared. "Those are civilians with guns," Kurt said quietly, joining Chief on the ridge. Through his sniper scope, he was analyzing the battle. "Look at the armor. Barely reinforced polymer. Those rifles. Christ, Chief, those are basically modern-day assault rifles. No plasma, no hard rounds, just conventional ammunition." "They're losing," Kelly added. She'd positioned herself 30 meters to Chief's left, instinctively establishing overlapping fields of fire. "Another 5 minutes and they're overrun." Chief watched a bug. They were calling them bugs now, for lack of a better term. Decapitate 3 soldiers with one sweep of its limb. Watched a brave trooper empty an entire magazine into a bug's carapace before it impaled him on a talon the size of a combat knife. Watched the human line waver, start to break. The UNSC had spent decades teaching John 1:17 that his purpose was to protect humanity. Every human, any human. The species, not the nation. These soldiers wore different uniforms and carried primitive weapons, but they were still human, still dying. "Spartans," Chief said into the battalion channel, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "We have contact with indigenous human forces under attack by hostile alien swarm. Rules of engagement: protect human life, eliminate all hostile contacts. Move out." 23 green acknowledgement lights. Chief leaped off the ridge, and Jolnir's shields flaring as he dropped 15 meters and hit the ground running. Behind him, his battalion followed, a wedge of super soldiers descending on the battle like the hand of God. The nearest bug never saw him coming. Chief hit it at full sprint, his armored mass and augmented strength combining into 2 tons of force that shattered the creature's exoskeleton like ceramic under a hammer. He transitioned smoothly, drawing his M60 Magnum, and put 3 rounds through the head of another bug, flanking a group of soldiers. The MA5C assault rifle in his other hand barked controlled bursts, each round finding joints, eyes, the soft tissue under carapace plates. Chief had fought the Flood, the Covenant, every nightmare the galaxy could spawn. These bugs were dangerous, fast, deadly, but they followed predictable attack patterns. Biological programming, not tactical thinking. He'd killed worse. A warrior bug lunged at him, mandibles spread wide enough to bite through his torso. Chief sidestepped with preternatural speed, let the creature's momentum carry it past him, and emptied half a magazine into its exposed underbelly. It crashed down, legs twitching. Around him, the Spartans were carving through the swarm with the efficiency of industrial machinery. Kurt's sniper rifle cracked rhythmically, each shot a dead bug. He was targeting the larger specimens, the ones coordinating the smaller drones. Kelly became a blur of motion, her shotgun roaring as she moved through the bugs faster than they could track. The other Spartans established a firing line, overlapping fields of fire that created a kill zone nothing living could cross. The human soldiers, the local troopers, stood frozen in shock, watching armored giants appear from nowhere and destroy an enemy that had been killing them with ease. Chief activated his external speakers. "Fall back to our position. We'll cover your withdrawal." One of the troopers, an officer with lieutenant's insignia, seemed to shake off his paralysis. "You heard him. Move, move, move." The humans retreated in reasonably good order, Chief noted. Scared but disciplined. They maintained fire as they fell back, covering each other, dragging their wounded. Good soldiers working with bad equipment. A new bug type erupted from a tunnel, massive, bloated, with a pulsing sac on its back. Chief's threat assessment algorithms flagged it immediately. Spartan 104, explosive contact 12 o'clock. The Spartan designated as Fred was already moving, his M41 rocket launcher rising smoothly to his shoulder. The rocket streaked across the valley and detonated against the bloated bug sac. The creature exploded in a gout of green flame that incinerated everything within 20 meters. Biological napalm, Fred reported calmly. Recommend prioritizing similar targets before they reach friendly positions. Chief adjusted tactics instantly. Kurt, designate all tanker-class bugs. Battalion priority target. The Spartans adapted their centuries of combined combat experience applied to a new enemy in real time. The bug swarm, for all its numbers, wasn't prepared for opponents who could think, adapt, and hit with precision that bordered on supernatural. Within 3 minutes, the tide had turned. Within 5, the bugs were retreating back into their tunnels, leaving hundreds of dead behind. Chief stood in the center of the battlefield, his armor splashed with alien ichor that steamed in the desert heat, and turned to face the human officer who was approaching cautiously. "I'm Lieutenant Rashak, Mobile Infantry," the man said, his voice steady despite the shock in his eyes. "I don't know who you are or where you came from, but you just saved 200 lives. Thank you." Chief looked at the soldier, really looked. The man's armor wouldn't stop a plasma bolt. His rifle was obsolete by UNSC standards. His tactics were sound, but his equipment was suicidal. And he stood there with the bearing of a warrior who'd faced death and walked away. "Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, UNSC Navy," Chief replied. "We're not from around here." Rashak's eyes flicked to the Mjolnir armor, the energy shield that still flickered faintly around Chief's body, the alien technology that was clearly beyond anything his world had produced. "No," the lieutenant said slowly. "I don't think you are. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together." In the distance, more chittering echoed from the tunnels. The bugs weren't done. This wasn't a battle, it was a war, and the Spartans had just entered it. The mobile infantry had a saying, "Everyone fights, no one quits." Lieutenant Rashak lived by those words, had watched good troopers die by those words, had sent boys and girls barely old enough to vote into meat grinders because the Federation needed bodies more than it needed survivors. But standing in the aftermath of a battle that should have killed his entire platoon, watching armored giants casually reload weapons that had torn through bugs like tissue paper, Rashak felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years of fighting arachnids. Hope. "Lieutenant, we've got movement in Tunnel Complex 7. Corporal Bronsky called out, his Morita rifle trained on the dark opening in the valley floor. "Sounds like they're regrouping for another push." Chief's motion tracker confirmed it. Multiple contacts, moving in organized patterns deeper in the tunnel system. Not a disorganized retreat, a tactical withdrawal to regroup. He filed that information away. These bugs had some form of coordination, possibly central intelligence directing the swarm. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" Chief asked Rashak. The lieutenant's jaw tightened. "Reinforcements? Chief, we are the reinforcements. Command sent us to extract a research team from Firebase Zulu before the bugs overran it. We're 40 clicks from the nearest federal outpost, and our dropship took a plasma blast from a hopper bug." He gestured to the burning wreckage half a click away, black smoke rising into the pale sky. "We were dead the moment we touched down. You just delayed the inevitable." Kelly appeared beside Chief, moving so fast that several mobile infantry troopers flinched. "Chief, I scouted the research facility. It's 3 clicks northeast, built into the canyon wall. Heavy fortifications, but they're surrounded. I count at least 500 bugs in the immediate area, maybe thousands more in connecting tunnels. The scientists are alive. I saw movement through the windows. Federation doesn't leave people behind, Rashak said, though his tone suggested he'd seen enough exceptions to doubt his own words. But we don't have the firepower to punch through that kind of infestation. Standard mobile infantry doctrine would be to call in orbital bombardment, level the entire grid square. With the scientists inside, Chief said flatly. Rashak met his gaze. With acceptable losses. That's war, Chief. We lose a dozen scientists, but we deny the brain bugs whatever intel they're after. Command calls it a win. Chief had heard similar logic from Oni, from officers who measured victory in statistics rather than lives. He'd never agreed with it. Spartans were created to protect humanity, all of humanity, not just the politically expedient parts. Spartan Battalion, Chief said over the command channel. We have 12 civilians surrounded by hostile forces at Firebase Zulu. Mission objective, extract all civilians, 0 casualties. Kurt, Fred, take fire teams Alpha and Bravo, establish overwatch positions on the canyon rim. Kelly, you're with me on point. Delta team secures our exit route. We move in 5. The Spartans acknowledged and began moving immediately, weapons checks and ammo counts happening with machine efficiency. Chief noticed the mobile infantry watching them with expressions ranging from awe to disbelief. You can't be serious, Rashak said. Chief, I appreciate the heroics, but there's heroic and there's suicide. My people barely survived one engagement with your help. You want us to assault a fortified position crawling with bugs? No, Chief said, turning to face the lieutenant. I want your people to stay here, establish a defensive perimeter, and be ready to cover our extraction. We'll handle the assault. Just you? Your squad? 24 Spartans, Chief corrected. It's enough. Rashak looked at his own troops, 63 survivors out of the 100 they'd dropped with, all of them exhausted, half of them wounded, every single one of them running low on ammunition. Then he looked at the Spartans, who stood in perfect formation, armor unmarred by fatigue, weapons ready, moving with the controlled lethality of predators. What the hell are you people? Rashak asked quietly. Necessary, Chief replied, and led his Spartans toward Firebase Zulu. The canyon approach was a kill zone by design. Narrow passage, high walls, perfect firing positions for defenders, or for bugs that had overrun those defenders. Chief's HUD painted the tactical situation in clean geometric overlays. Enemy positions marked in red. Probable ambush points highlighted. Optimal approach vectors calculated in real time. Contact, Kelly whispered over the comm. She'd ranged ahead, scouting the entrance. 30 warrior bugs in the main tunnel, another 50 spread through the complex. I'm seeing a new type, smaller, faster, maybe scouts. And Chief, there's something else, bigger. It's not moving, but the other bugs keep circling it. Brain bug, Kurt said from his overwatch position. Through his scope, he had visual on the canyon interior. I've got thermal on the target, massive heat signature, neural tissue visible through semi-transparent carapace. That's their command structure. Kill it, and the rest lose coordination. Chief considered. A decapitation strike made tactical sense. But the brain bug would be heavily guarded, and the scientists were the priority. We split objectives, he decided. Kelly, you and I retrieve the civilians. Kurt, Fire Team Alpha eliminates the brain bug. Everyone else suppresses the swarm and covers our extraction. Synchronized assault. They won't know which target to prioritize. The Spartans moved into position with the silence of ghosts. Chief counted down on the command channel. 3, 2, 1. Kurt's first shot vaporized a warrior bug's head from 800 meters. Before the corpse hit the ground, the canyon erupted with precision violence. Chief and Kelly breached the facility entrance while the bugs were still processing the assault. A warrior bug lunged from the shadows. Kelly's shotgun removed its head at point-blank range, the creature's momentum carrying its corpse past her. Chief put controlled bursts into 2 more bugs, then kicked through the reinforced door to the research lab. 12 scientists huddled in the corner, armed with improvised weapons, welding torches, metal pipes, one woman holding a chair. They were terrified, but defiant, ready to fight to the end. UNSC evacuation, Chief announced. Single file, stay behind me, move when I move. UNSC? One of the scientists, an older man with blood-stained lab coat, stared at Chief's armor. That's not federal technology. Who? Explanations later. Move now. Kelly was already clearing the exit corridor, her enhanced speed allowing her to engage bugs before they could react. Chief herded the scientists forward, his armor's shield taking hits from warrior bug claws that would have torn through standard mobile infantry gear. Outside, the Spartans had turned the canyon into an abattoir. Fire Team Bravo held the main tunnel, their overlapping fields of fire creating a wall of lead that shredded any bug attempting to advance. Spartan self-evac. Linda had positioned herself on a ledge 30 meters up, her sniper rifle cracking methodically, each shot a dead bug, no wasted ammunition. Kurt's voice came through calm and precise. Brain bug eliminated. Confirm kill, target neutralized. The effect was immediate. The bug swarm's coordinated assault dissolved into chaos. Warriors attacked randomly, tankers wandered without direction, the smaller scout bugs simply froze. Chief filed that information away. These creatures required central command. Remove the brain and they became manageable. All teams, collapse on extraction point, Chief ordered. The Spartans withdrew in perfect order, each fire team covering the next, the scientists protected in the center of their formation. Mobile infantry troopers watched in stunned silence as 24 Spartans and 12 civilians emerged from a canyon that had swallowed hundreds of federal soldiers over the past month. Rashak approached Chief as the Spartans established a defensive perimeter. I need to report this to command. They'll want to know everything. Who you are, where you came from, what kind of technology you're carrying. He paused. They're going to want to take you in. Chief looked at the lieutenant, then at the mobile infantry troopers who were staring at the Spartans with expressions mixing gratitude and uncertainty. He thought about the UNSC's first contact protocols, about the political complications of revealing advanced military technology to an unknown human faction. Then he thought about the scientists they'd just saved, the mobile infantry who would have died without Spartan intervention, the war these people were fighting against an enemy that seemed endless. We'll talk to command, Chief said. But Lieutenant, we don't take orders from anyone but UNSC chain of command. We'll help however we can, but we're not federal soldiers. Rashak nodded slowly. Fair enough. But Chief, you should know. The Federation doesn't handle independent operators well, especially not ones with capabilities that make our entire military look obsolete. He glanced at the dead brain bug in the canyon, at the hundreds of warrior bug corpses. You just did in 30 minutes what takes us months and thousands of casualties. That makes you either the greatest asset the Federation's ever seen, or the greatest threat. We've been called both before, Chief replied. In the distance, the sound of dropship engines echoed across the desert. Federal reinforcements, finally arriving after the battle was over. Chief watched them approach, these humans from another universe with their primitive technology and their grinding war of attrition. The Covenant had been stronger, faster, more advanced. The Flood had been an extinction-level nightmare. but standing here, watching soldiers celebrate a victory that should have been a massacre, Chief realized this universe had its own kind of horror. Not the horror of losing. The horror of winning through acceptable sacrifice, of measuring victory in how many you could afford to lose. The Spartans had been created to save humanity. But in this universe, humanity had forgotten it was worth saving whole. The Federal dropship touched down with hydraulic hiss and diesel thunder, its hull scarred by plasma burns and talon marks that told the story of 100 combat insertions. The rear ramp dropped, and out strode Captain Deladere, commander of the firebase Victor Garrison, a lean woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had watched too many young troopers die. She surveyed the battlefield with professional detachment. Bug corpses stacked like cordwood, her mobile infantry standing in loose formation, 12 rescued scientists, and 24 figures in armor that made Federal combat suits look like children's toys. "Lieutenant Raskchak," she said crisply, "your after-action report mentioned unknown Allied forces. I was expecting maybe a mercenary company or a lost colonial unit." Her gaze locked onto Master Chief, traveled up his 7-foot armored frame, lingered on the golden energy shield still flickering around his body. "I wasn't expecting science fiction." Chief stood motionless, letting her assess him. His motion tracker showed 43 Federal troopers deploying from 3 dropships, establishing overlapping fields of fire. Professional movements, good tactical spacing. They were treating the Spartans as potential hostiles while maintaining plausible deniability. Smart. "Captain," Chief said, his voice amplified by external speakers. "Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, United Nations Space Command. My battalion and I are displaced combatants. We engaged hostile forces threatening human lives. That's our only agenda. United Nations Space Command." Deladere repeated the words slowly, as if testing their taste. "Never heard of it, and we've cataloged every military organization in Federal space." She gestured at his Mjolnir armor. "That technology is decades beyond our current capabilities. The energy shielding alone would revolutionize combat doctrine. So you'll forgive me if I'm skeptical about your story." "I don't need you to believe me," Chief replied evenly. "I need you to understand that we're not your enemy. The bugs are." One of the rescued scientists stepped forward. Dr. Chen, the man in the blood-stained lab coat. "Captain, I watched these soldiers tear through 500 Arachnids like they were target practice. They pulled us out of Firebase Zulu when your command had already written us off as acceptable losses." His voice carried an edge of bitterness. "Whatever they are, wherever they're from, they just saved 12 Federal citizens. That should count for something." Deladere's expression didn't change, but Chief detected the subtle shift in her stance. She was military, not a fanatic. She understood tactical value when she saw it. "Dr. Chen, I'm glad you're alive. Lieutenant Rashak, you and your platoon performed admirably under impossible circumstances." She turned back to Chief. "But that doesn't change the fact that we have 24 heavily armed unknowns on Federal soil carrying technology that violates about 15 different security protocols. I'm ordering you to stand down, surrender your weapons, and submit to debriefing at Firebase Victor. You'll be treated as allied combatants until intelligence determines your status." Chief didn't move. Behind him, he felt rather than saw his Spartans shift fractionally, not aggressive, but ready. Kelly's hand drifted toward her sidearm. Kurt's rifle remained pointed safely downward, but his finger moved to the trigger guard. The other Spartans simply waited, patient as statues, for Chief's decision. The mobile infantry troopers tensed. Morita rifles came up slowly, carefully. Soldiers trying not to start a firefight they couldn't win, but following orders anyway. "Captain," Chief said quietly, "we've just demonstrated we're not hostile. we've saved federal lives. We've eliminated high-value enemy targets. Ordering us to disarm is tactically unnecessary and strategically unwise. It's not a request, Chief. Then it's not going to happen. The silence stretched. 43 mobile infantry troopers with conventional firearms against 24 Spartans with energy shields and superhuman reflexes. Chief calculated the outcome in milliseconds. 0 Spartan casualties, 70% mobile infantry casualties in the first 10 seconds, complete federal tactical collapse within 30. It would be a slaughter, and it would make the Spartans enemies of the only human faction in this universe. Rashak stepped between them, hands raised. Captain, with respect, we don't need this fight. We need allies. You saw my after-action report. These Spartans have capabilities we can't match. Their technology, their training, their combat effectiveness, they could turn the tide of this war. But only if we don't start by treating them like prisoners. The Federation has protocols. The Federation just lost 3 outposts in this sector alone. Rashak interrupted, his voice hard. Klendathu was a disaster. We're losing ground on 6 worlds. The bugs adapt faster than we can deploy countermeasures. Command's strategy is to throw more bodies at the problem and hope we outbreed their kill rate. He gestured at Chief. These soldiers just eliminated a brain bug and 500 warriors with 0 casualties. 0. Do you understand what that means? Deladier's jaw tightened. Chief could see the calculation in her eyes. Officer's math. Weighing orders against outcomes, protocol against survival. Intelligence will have my head if I let you walk around freely, she said finally. And if you're some kind of elaborate skinnies operation, if this is their new infiltration tech, we're not skinnies, Chief said. The term was unfamiliar, but context suggested another alien faction. We're human. We fight to protect humanity. That's all you need to know right now. One of the mobile infantry troopers, a sergeant with a scar bisecting his face, lowered his rifle. Captain, I watched him move, saw him kill a warrior bug with his bare hands, then shoot 3 more before the first one hit the ground. He's fast enough that my HUD couldn't track him. The sergeant's voice carried the flat certainty of a combat veteran. If they wanted us dead, we'd be dead. They're letting us walk away. That's not hostile action. That's restraint. Other troopers murmured agreement. Chief could see the respect in their eyes, the universal language of soldiers recognizing other soldiers. They'd been fighting a losing war, watching friends die in meat grinders for months or years. Suddenly, here were warriors who made it look easy. Kelly's voice came through on the private Spartan channel. Chief, I'm reading more dropships inbound. Heavy lift capacity. They're bringing in the big toys. Chief's motion tracker confirmed it. 6 large transports approaching from the east, along with 4 atmospheric fighters. Federal Command wasn't taking chances. They were deploying enough firepower to level the grid square. Captain, Chief said, you've got more forces inbound. I'm guessing they're not here for bug cleanup, so let's make this simple. We want to help. We want to kill bugs and save human lives. We're willing to coordinate with federal forces, share tactical intelligence, and operate as irregular allies. What we won't do is surrender our weapons or submit to indefinite detention. He paused. And Captain? If your command tries to force the issue, people will die. Not us, but a lot of your soldiers. It wasn't a threat. It was a tactical assessment, delivered with the same clinical precision Chief used for everything. Deladier stared at him for a long moment, then tapped her comm unit. Command, this is Deladier, requesting direct line to General Owen. She waited, never breaking eye contact with Chief. When a voice crackled through, she spoke quickly. General, I have a situation that requires command-level decision authority. We have contact with unknown Allied forces demonstrating advanced capabilities. They're willing to assist federal operations but refuse to disarm. Requesting permission to negotiate operational parameters instead of attempting hostile detention. The general's voice came through, distorted by the calm but audible. Captain, your report suggested these unknowns are a potential intelligence goldmine. We need their technology analyzed, their origins confirmed. Bring them in by whatever means necessary. Sir, whatever means will cost us approximately 40 soldiers and gain us nothing. These forces have demonstrated overwhelming combat superiority. Hostile action is tactically inadvisable. A long pause. Chief could imagine the general running the same calculations, cost versus benefit, protocol versus pragmatism. Maintain visual contact but do not engage, the general said finally. I'm sending Colonel Harris to negotiate directly. Harris has authority to establish temporary operational agreements. But Captain, if they make any hostile moves... Understood, sir. Deladier out. She looked at Chief with something approaching respect. You just backed the federal military into a corner and convinced us it was our idea. That takes either massive confidence or massive stupidity. We've done this before, Chief said, thinking of first contact with the Arbiter, of uneasy alliances forged in the fire of the Covenant War. Different universe, same principle. When extinction's on the line, you find common ground. Extinction? Deladier's eyes narrowed. Is that what you think this war is? Chief looked at the canyon full of bug corpses, at the tunnel entrances still chittering with alien movement, at the mobile infantry troopers with their obsolete weapons and expendable soldier doctrine. Yes, he said simply. You're fighting an enemy that outbreeds you, adapts to your tactics, and sees every human as food or fertilizer. Your current strategy is losing. You need force multipliers, not more bodies. He gestured at his Spartans. We're the force multipliers. Rashak laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. He's not wrong, Captain. We lost 6,000 troopers taking Hill 203 last month. Bugs had it back in a week. We're bleeding out slowly, calling it victory because we hit our casualty projections. The incoming transports were visible now. Heavy lifters that could carry entire platoons. Chief marked them on his HUD, calculated response times, identified the atmospheric fighter's probable armament. Not because he planned to fight, because Spartans always had contingencies. You're Colonel Harris, Chief said to Deladier. When he arrives, tell him we're willing to demonstrate our capabilities. Full combat operation, your observers. Complete transparency on tactics and effectiveness. But not on technology. We won't disassemble our armor or explain our systems. That's non-negotiable. Why not, if you're really here to help? Because technology transfer without context is dangerous, Chief interrupted. You don't have the industrial base, the materials science, or the training infrastructure to replicate what we have. Giving you the blueprints would be like handing nuclear weapons to a civilization that just invented gunpowder. Best case, you waste decades trying to reverse engineer something you can't build. Worst case, you create something that kills more of your own people than it saves. It was the same logic Oni had used for centuries. The same arguments Chief had heard about Covenant technology, Forerunner artifacts. Every advancement that came with hidden costs. Deladier absorbed that, nodded slowly. You sound like someone who's made these mistakes before. We've learned from them, Chief said. The transports landed in formation, ramps dropping in unison. Colonel Harris emerged from the lead ship. A tall man with the kind of parade ground bearing that suggested career military, not combat veteran. He surveyed the scene with calculating eyes, lingering on the Spartan armor, the bug corpses, the rescued scientists. "Master Chief," he said, voice carrying parade ground projection. "I'm Colonel Marcus Harris, Federal Military Intelligence. I understand we have a first contact situation." Chief inclined his head fractionally. "Colonel, I'm authorized to negotiate operational parameters. But before we begin, I need to understand something." Harris gestured at the battlefield. "Lieutenant Raskzak reports you killed over 600 Arachnids with 0 friendly casualties. That you eliminated a brain bug in a fortified position. That your armor incorporates technology we can't identify, and your combat effectiveness exceeds anything in federal inventory." He paused. "Are you human?" It was Kelly who answered, her voice carrying clearly across the killing field. "We were born human. We were made into something more. But yeah, we're human. Just the kind humanity needs when extinction comes knocking." Harris studied her, then Chief, then the assembled Spartans. "I think," he said slowly, "we need to have a very long conversation about exactly what kind of war you think we're fighting." "The kind you're losing," Chief replied. "Let's talk about how to change that." Firebase Victor squatted on a mesa like a concrete tumor, all reinforced walls and automated turrets, surrounded by minefields and razor wire that wouldn't stop a determined bug swarm for more than 30 seconds. Chief's tactical assessment was immediate and damning. The base was a kill box designed to funnel attackers into overlapping fire lanes, which worked fine against human enemies but meant nothing to bugs that attacked from underground. The tunnel entrances honeycombing the mesa's base told their own story. The Federation was sitting on top of an infestation, not defending against one. Colonel Harris led them into a briefing room deep in the base's substructure, past checkpoints manned by nervous troopers who stared at the Spartans with expressions mixing awe and fear. The room itself was utilitarian. Metal walls, holographic display table, chairs bolted to the floor, security cameras in every corner. Chief noted their positions, calculated their blind spots, and dismissed them as irrelevant. If the Federation wanted surveillance footage of Spartans, they'd get it. There was nothing to hide in a conversation. Harris pulled up a holographic star map. "This is federal space. 200 colonized worlds, another 50 outposts and mining facilities. Population, 12 billion, give or take." He highlighted systems in red. "These are the worlds we've lost to the Arachnid quarantine in the last 18 months. 47 colonies, 4 billion dead or missing." Chief studied the map. The red zones formed a pattern, not random expansion, but deliberate strategy. The bugs were cutting off resource-rich systems, isolating key industrial worlds. Not mindless eating, calculated conquest. "You said quarantine," Kelly noted. "Not invasion. You're already writing off those worlds." "We don't have the forces to retake them," Harris said flatly. "The bugs breed faster than we can kill them. Every world they take becomes a factory for more warriors, more plasma bugs, more evolution. They adapt, learn. We hit them with nerve gas. They develop resistance within 6 months. We use nuclear bombardment. They dig deeper and spread faster." His jaw tightened. "We're not losing battles. We're losing the biological arms race." Rushak stood near the door, watching the exchange. "How many worlds have you lost, Chief, in your war?" Chief thought of Reach, of the 30 billion dead when the Covenant glassed the planet, of Harvest, Tribute, Mirrodem, the litany of tombstone worlds stretching back decades. Too many. But we won. Eventually. How? Harris leaned forward, and Chief saw the desperation beneath the professional facade. How does a military force defeat an enemy that outbreeds, outadapts, and outproduces them? "You don't fight their war," Chief said. "You change the rules." He gestured at the star map. You're fighting a defensive war of attrition. The bugs attack, you respond. They take ground, you try to retake it. You're always reactive, never proactive. They're controlling the tempo. We've launched offensive operations, Harris protested. Klendathu was a disaster, Rashak interrupted quietly. We lost 100,000 troopers in the opening assault. The bugs were waiting for us. They knew we were coming. Chief filed that away. Intelligence failure or something worse. Traitors, compromised communications, or bug psychic capabilities they hadn't yet identified. The brain bug Kelly had mentioned earlier suggested psionic coordination. Show me your tactical doctrine, Chief said. Harris pulled up combat footage. Mobile infantry dropping from orbit, establishing beachheads, pushing into bug territory with overwhelming firepower. It was textbook combined arms, air support, artillery, infantry advance. It was also predictable, ponderous, and gave the bugs every advantage. You fight like you're facing human enemies, Kurt observed from where he'd positioned himself to watch all entrances. You establish supply lines, hold territory, measure success in ground taken. But bugs don't care about territory. They care about biomass. Every trooper you lose is protein they convert into more warriors. We can't just abandon ground. You're already losing ground, Chief said. Just slowly. You need surgical strikes, not grinding advances. Decapitation attacks on brain bugs. Tunnel collapses to disrupt their logistics. Hit and run operations that bleed their numbers without exposing your forces to attrition warfare. Harris stared at him. That's not how the mobile infantry operates. We're a mass deployment force. We drop thousands of troopers. We hold the line. We trade fire until either we win or we withdraw. We don't have special operations divisions. You do now, Kelly said, gesturing at the Spartans. If you're smart enough to use us. The door opened and 3 figures entered. 2 in federal military uniforms with intelligence insignia, 1 in a white lab coat. The scientist was a thin woman with hungry eyes that locked onto Chief's armor with barely concealed obsession. Dr. Roxanne Weaver, Harris introduced her. Head of Federal R&D Division. She's been analyzing the helmet camera footage from Lieutenant Rasak's operation. He nodded to the intelligence officers. Majors Vickers and Chen, Strategic Intelligence. Dr. Weaver circled Chief like he was a museum exhibit. Powered armor with integrated energy shielding. Neural interface, I can see the connection ports. Heads-up display with motion tracking and target acquisition. Magnetic weapon locks. And that's just what's visible externally. She pulled up technical specifications on the holo display. Our analysts estimate the suit alone masses 400 kilograms. You're moving in it like it weighs nothing, which means either revolutionary power systems or... She looked at Chief with sudden understanding. You're augmented. Genetically? Cybernetically? Some combination? That's classified, Chief said. Everything about you is classified, Vickers snapped. He was a compact man with a bureaucrat's soft hands and a predator's eyes. You appear from nowhere with technology decades beyond federal capabilities. You refuse to explain your origins. You won't disarm or submit to proper security protocols. And you expect us to just... what? Accept you as allies? We expect you to make the intelligent choice, Chief replied. You're losing a war. We can help you win it. What we won't do is become laboratory specimens while your people die. How do we know you're not skinny infiltrators? Chen demanded. Some new bioweapon designed to infiltrate federal command structure? Skinnies, Chief repeated. Second alien faction you've mentioned. Tell me about them. Harris pulled up new images. Tall, gray-skinned humanoids with elongated skulls and triple-jointed limbs. Arachnid allies. We don't know if they're symbiotic species or if the bugs conquered them first. They provide technological support, plasma weapons, ship-to-ship capabilities the bugs don't have naturally. We've been fighting a two-front war since the beginning. Chief studied the skinnies. Not Covenant, not Flood. Something new but following familiar patterns, tool-using species allied with a biological swarm. He wondered if the skinnies were allies by choice or slaves wearing chains they couldn't see. "We're not skinnies," Fred said, speaking for the first time. "We're not bugs. We're humans from another universe who fell through a dimensional rupture during a space battle. You can believe that or not, but the results are the same. We're here, we're effective, and we're willing to help." Another universe. Dr. Weaver's eyes gleamed. Quantum probability theory suggests infinite parallel realities, but we've never had evidence of cross-dimensional travel. If you're telling the truth, the technology implications alone are irrelevant to winning this war, Chief interrupted. "Doctor, I understand you want to study us. That's natural. But my Spartans and I have one mission: protect humanity. In our universe, we fought a 30-year war against alien genociders who wanted to exterminate our species. We won because we adapted, because we hit hard where it mattered, because we never stopped fighting." He looked at each person in the room. "Your Federation is making the same mistakes we made early in our war. You're fighting with mass when you need precision. You're reacting when you should be anticipating. You're measuring success in ground held instead of enemies eliminated." "Spare us the lecture," Vickers said. "We've been fighting this war for 5 years. We know you know how to die bravely." Kelly cut in, her voice sharp. "We watched footage from Klendathu. Saw your troopers charging bug positions with no cover, no suppressing fire, no tactical coordination beyond move forward and shoot. That's not combat doctrine. That's suicide with extra steps." The room went silent. Harris's face darkened, but he didn't disagree. Rashtak looked away, jaw tight with suppressed anger. Not at Kelly, Chief noted, but at the truth of her words. "The mobile infantry does what it must," Harris said finally. "We don't have super soldiers. We don't have magical armor. We have ordinary people willing to fight for survival. And yes, we lose a lot of them. But we keep fighting. And we respect that," Chief said. "Your troopers are brave, well trained within their limitations. They deserve better equipment, better tactics, better leadership." He met Harris's eyes. "We can provide 2 of those 3 things." "Equipment?" Dr. Weaver leaned forward. "You'd share your technology?" "No. We'd train your forces to fight smarter, not harder. We'd lead operations that target bug command structure instead of grinding through warrior swarms. We'd teach your soldiers how to maximize their effectiveness without needing superhuman abilities." Chief pulled up the star map, highlighted 3 systems on the bug front line. "These worlds. The bugs took them in the last 6 months. They're consolidating, building up forces for a major push. Standard Federation response would be to fortify the next defensive line and wait for the attack." "And your response?" Harris asked. "Hit them first. Strike teams infiltrate through tunnel networks, eliminate brain bugs, collapse critical tunnels, withdraw before they can mass forces. Repeat on multiple worlds simultaneously. Force them to spread thin, disrupt their coordination, turn their own tunnel systems into death traps." "That's actually tactically sound," Chen admitted reluctantly. "But it requires forces capable of operating in confined spaces against overwhelming numbers. The kind of forces that can punch through hardened positions and extract successfully. Forces like Spartans," Harris said slowly. "You're offering to be our Special Operations Division." "We're offering to win your war," Chief corrected. "But we do it our way. We choose our missions. We operate with autonomy. You provide intelligence, logistics, and extraction support. We provide results. Vickers stood abruptly. That's unacceptable. Federal military command cannot cede operational authority to unknown foreign combatants. The chain of command hasn't been winning, Rashak said quietly. All eyes turned to him. The lieutenant straightened, meeting their stares. I've fought on 6 worlds, lost 3/4 of my unit, watched good troopers die because command insisted on frontal assaults against entrenched positions. Sir, with respect, our doctrine is killing us. Maybe it's time we tried something different. Lieutenant, you're out of line? I'm alive because of them. Rashak gestured at the Spartans. So are 63 mobile infantry troopers and 12 scientists. That's not out of line. That's empirical evidence. Harris held up a hand, forestalling Vickers' response. Let's say I agree. Let's say I convinced General Owen to authorize an experimental special operations program with your Spartans as the core unit. What exactly are you proposing for your first mission? Chief highlighted one of the recently fallen worlds. Planet designated LV-742. You lost it 8 weeks ago. The bugs have established major tunnel complexes, but haven't fully consolidated their defenses. Brain bug presence confirmed by your last reconnaissance drone. Strategic value: major industrial center, shipyards still partially intact. He zoomed in on the planetary surface. We insert with a mobile infantry support element, infiltrate the primary hive complex, eliminate the brain bug, sabotage enough tunnel structure to make the planet untenable for bug occupation. Extract. Total operation time, 72 hours. LV-742? Dr. Weaver pulled up files. That's Zegama Beach. We evacuated 3 million civilians before the bugs overran the orbital defenses. Command classified it as Category 5 loss. Total write-off. Then you have nothing to lose by trying, Chief said. If we fail, you're no worse off than before. If we succeed, you retake a major industrial world and prove the viability of surgical strike doctrine. Harris studied the map, running calculations Chief could see in the tightness around his eyes. Finally, he nodded. I'll take it to General Owen. But Chief, you need to understand, the Federation doesn't react well to failure. If this goes wrong, if you lose soldiers or fail to achieve objectives, there won't be a second chance. They'll classify you as a failed experiment and lock you in a research facility for the rest of your natural lives. Then we won't fail, Chief said simply. Kelly grinned behind her visor. Kurt made a small sound that might have been amusement. The other Spartans remained silent, but Chief felt their confidence through the shared tactical network. Failure wasn't in their vocabulary. Spartans adapted. Spartans overcame. Spartans won. Harris looked at them. These warriors from another universe who'd walked into a losing war and offered to turn the tide, and made his decision. I'll get you your mission authorization, he said. God help us all if this doesn't work. Chief thought of Reach, of Halo, of Installation 04, and the Flood in the Covenant Armada. Thought of all the impossible odds he'd faced and overcome. God, he said, never had much to do with it. General Isaac Owen had been fighting the bug war since the beginning. Since the first colony went dark, since Klendathu turned into a slaughterhouse, since he'd personally signed off on evacuation orders that left thousands of civilians behind because the alternative was losing entire fleets. He'd climbed the ranks through pragmatism and ruthlessness, had made the hard calls that let humanity survive another day. He did not make those sacrifices to hand operational authority to unknown soldiers with impossible technology. But standing in his command center 300 meters beneath Firebase Victor's surface, watching live drone footage of Master Chief and his Spartans methodically clearing a bug tunnel complex for training purposes. Owen was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. His way wasn't working fast enough. "Replay section 47, he ordered. The holographic display rewound. On screen, a Spartan designated Kelly 087 moved through a tunnel at speeds the recording equipment could barely track. She engaged 12 warrior bugs in 17 seconds. Shotgun, sidearm, combat knife. Then her bare hands when a warrior closed to grappling range. The bug died with its carapace crushed inward, thorax collapsed by a single strike that delivered enough force to crater concrete. "Motion analysis?" Owen asked. His technical officer, Lieutenant Park, pulled up the data. Peak velocity 47 kilometers per hour in full armor. Reaction time averaging 0.2 seconds. Strength output. She paused, double-checking her numbers. "Sir, she hit that warrior bug with approximately 2,000 kilograms of force. That's equivalent to being struck by a small vehicle." "And the armor's energy shields?" "Absorbed plasma fire that would have melted through our standard mobile infantry suits. Recharged in under 30 seconds. Park looked up from her console. "General, our analysts estimate each of these soldiers is combat equivalent to a full MI platoon, and they operate with 0 casualties. Owen had commanded 50,000 troopers at Klendathu. He'd lost 38,000 in the first 6 hours. The acceptable casualty projections for retaking a fortified bug world ran at 60 to 70% losses. He'd signed those orders because the alternative was ceding more territory, more resources, more time for the bugs to spread. These Spartans were offering him a third option." "Colonel Harris," Owen said, not taking his eyes off the display. "Your assessment." Harris stood at attention, though his voice carried the weight of conviction. "Sir, I believe they're genuine. The technology is too advanced to be skinny infiltration. If the skinnies had this capability, they'd have used it themselves. Their tactical knowledge is sophisticated but distinctly non-federal, suggesting alternative military development. And frankly, if they wanted to harm us, they've had ample opportunity." "Dr. Weaver? Scientific assessment?" The researcher looked like she hadn't slept since meeting the Spartans. "Their armor alone represents a technological leap of decades. The power supply, the shield generation, the neural interface architecture. It's all beyond our current understanding. But General, I don't believe we can reverse engineer it without their cooperation. The complexity suggests an entire industrial and scientific infrastructure we simply don't have. So they're offering us the carrot, but keeping the stick," Owen said. "We get their combat effectiveness, but not the means to replicate it." "They're offering us a fighting chance," Rashtak said. He'd been invited to the briefing specifically because he'd survived first contact. "General, I've fought bugs for 3 years. I know what it takes to kill them, and I know what it costs. These Spartans killed 600 Arachnids without breaking stride. They pulled 12 scientists out of a death trap we'd written off as unsalvageable. Sir, they're not offering us technology. They're offering us hope." Owen looked at the young lieutenant, saw the exhaustion beneath his professional bearing, the haunted eyes of someone who'd watched too many friends die. Rashak was representative of an entire generation. Soldiers who'd known nothing but losing battles won through acceptable sacrifice. "Major Vickers," Owen said. "Intelligence concerns?" Vickers' expression was sour. "Multiple concerns, sir. They refuse proper debriefing. They won't explain their origins in verifiable terms. They're demanding operational autonomy that violates every security protocol we have. And they're charismatic. The mobile infantry already treats them like heroes. If they decided to turn against us, they could potentially spark a military coup." "Counter-argument, Colonel Harris. If they wanted to overthrow federal authority, they wouldn't need to be subtle about it, Harris said dryly. They could walk into this command center right now, and there's nothing we could do to stop them. The fact that they're negotiating instead of dictating suggests they're interested in cooperation, not conquest. Owen pulled up the mission proposal Chief had submitted. LV 742, Zegama Beach, Category 5 loss. The industrial shipyards had been building federal fleet carriers before the evacuation. If the bugs had corrupted the orbital facilities, they'd have manufacturing capabilities that could tip the strategic balance. Standard federal doctrine would be to write off the loss and focus on preventing further expansion. To retake Zegama Beach would require a full expeditionary force, 300,000 troopers, orbital bombardment, months of grinding combat. Casualty projections ran at 150,000 dead. Chief's proposal: 24 Spartans, 200 mobile infantry support element, 72-hour operation. Projected casualties: 0 Spartans, acceptable MI losses defined as fewer than 10%. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of asymmetric operation that conventional military wisdom said couldn't work. It was also humanity's best chance to prove they could retake bug-held territory without bleeding themselves dry. How many worlds have we lost in the last year? Owen asked quietly. 17 confirmed Category 5 losses, Park replied. 23 more under active quarantine, another 40 showing early signs of subsurface infestation. And how many have we retaken? Silence. They all knew the answer. 0. Once the bugs dug in, federal forces lacked the capability to dislodge them without rendering the planet uninhabitable through orbital bombardment. General, Dr. Weaver said carefully, if this operation succeeds, if they actually retake Zegama Beach, the strategic implications are profound. It would prove bug occupation isn't permanent. It would demonstrate that surgical strikes can achieve what mass deployment cannot. It would fundamentally change how we fight this war. And if it fails? Owen demanded. Then we've lost 200 troopers and confirmed that even superhuman soldiers can't beat the bugs in entrenched positions, Vickers said. Which means we continue current doctrine until we either win through attrition or negotiate peace. There is no peace with Arachnids, Rashak said flatly. They don't negotiate. They consume. This is an extinction war, Major. We either find a way to win or we die as a species. Owen looked at each of them. The intelligence officer worried about security, the scientist hungry for knowledge, the colonel balancing pragmatism and protocol, the lieutenant who'd seen too much death. Then he looked back at the display, where Spartans moved through tunnels like avenging angels, killing bugs with mechanical efficiency. He thought about the 38,000 dead at Klendathu, the billions lost across 47 colonies, the projections that showed humanity losing the war of attrition within 15 years. He thought about his son, 20 years old, fresh out of boot camp, scheduled to deploy to the front lines next month. Thought about signing orders that had a 70% chance of getting the boy killed. Isaac Owen had made his career on hard decisions. Time for another one. Authorization granted, he said. Operation Beachhead. Retake Zegama Beach, eliminate bug command structure. Secure industrial facilities for potential reclamation. Master Chief and Spartan Battalion have operational command. Colonel Harris, you'll coordinate federal support and act as liaison. Lieutenant Rashak, you'll lead the mobile infantry element. Pick your people carefully. Volunteers only. Sir, Vickers protested. This violates multiple. This violates nothing that matters, Owen interrupted. The Federation is dying, Major. Slowly, but dying. These Spartans are offering us a lifeline. I'm taking it. He turned to Harris. But Colonel, make sure Chief understands something. This is a trial run. If They succeed, we'll discuss long-term cooperation. If they fail, if they get my soldiers killed through recklessness or incompetence, the deal is off, and they submit to federal authority. Permanently. Understood, sir. And get me a secure line to Fleet Admiral Sanchez. If we're retaking Zagama Beach, I want orbital support on standby. If this goes sideways, I'm not losing an entire expeditionary force because we were too proud to call for backup. The briefing broke up with crisp efficiency. Owen remained at the holographic display, watching the Spartans complete their tunnel clearing operation. 24 soldiers, 200 bugs dead, 0 casualties. Lieutenant Park approached quietly. General, permission to speak freely? Granted. Sir, I've analyzed their combat patterns. They fight like they've faced extinction before, like they've won before. She pulled up comparative footage. Spartans moving through tunnels, anticipating ambushes, coordinating without verbal communication. This isn't confidence, it's experience. Whatever war they fought in their universe, it made them into this. Owen nodded slowly. That's what worries me, Lieutenant. Soldiers this effective don't get made by winning easy wars. They get made by losing hard ones and refusing to stay down. He zoomed in on Master Chief, watching the 7-foot armored figure move with inhuman grace. The question is, what did their war cost them? What did they sacrifice to become weapons this perfect? Does it matter, sir, if they can help us win? Owen thought about his son, about the billions already dead, about the slow, grinding extinction the Federation was sliding toward. No, he said finally. I suppose it doesn't. 3 decks down, in the barracks section firebase Victor had hastily cleared for the Spartans. Chief assembled his battalion for the mission briefing. They stood in neat formation, armor locked and weapons racked, waiting with the patience of career soldiers. We have authorization, Chief said without preamble. Operation Beachhead launches in 48 hours. Objective, retake LV-742, eliminate bug command structure, secure strategic facilities. Federal command is watching. This is our proof of concept. If we succeed, they'll integrate us into their war effort. If we fail, they'll lock us up as experimental failures. No pressure, Kelly muttered. We've faced worse odds, Kurt said. Remember Installation 04? We were supposed to be dead a dozen times over. This isn't the Covenant, Fred pointed out. Bugs don't use tactics we're familiar with. No plasma rifles, no energy swords, no intelligent battlefield adaptation. They're biological weapons with hive coordination. Which means we adapt, Chief said. 48 hours to learn everything Federal intelligence has on Arachnid biology, behavior, and tactical patterns. We study their tunnel architecture, their breeding cycles, their command hierarchy. By the time we drop on Zagama Beach, we know these bugs better than they know themselves. Linda, who'd been cleaning her sniper rifle with methodical precision, looked up. What's our rules of engagement with the mobile infantry? If they can't keep up, if they're taking casualties, do we abort or do we push forward? It was the question every special operations soldier eventually faced. When do you prioritize the mission over the people? We don't leave anyone behind, Chief said. Spartan Code applies to everyone under our command. That means we keep the MI alive while accomplishing the objective. No acceptable losses, no expendable assets. Every soldier comes home. That's going to shock the hell out of Federal Command, Kelly said. From what Rashok told me, they're used to measuring success by how close they come to casualty projections. Then we teach them a different metric, Chief replied. Success means 0 friendly deaths and complete objective achievement. That's the only standard Spartans accept. The barracks door opened. Lieutenant Rashok entered, followed by a dozen mobile infantry troopers. hard-faced veterans with the look of soldiers who'd survived more battles than they'd expected to. They stared at the assembled Spartans with expressions mixing awe and uncertainty. "Master Chief," Rashak said, "these are my volunteers, best troopers in the battalion. They've all fought bugs, all survived at least 3 major engagements. They're willing to follow your lead on Zegama Beach." Chief studied them, young, most of them barely out of their teens. Their armor was scarred, their weapons well-maintained, their eyes old beyond their years. They'd seen friends die. They'd learned to expect death. Time to teach them to expect victory instead. "Listen up," Chief said, his voice carrying easily across the barracks. "In 48 hours, we're dropping into hell. We're going to walk through bug tunnels, kill everything hostile, and walk back out. Some of you are probably thinking that sounds like suicide." Several troopers nodded involuntarily. "It's not, because you're not fighting alone. You're fighting with Spartans, and Spartans don't lose." Chief gestured at his battalion. "These soldiers have fought aliens that make your bugs look like insects. Which, granted, they are. We've faced extinction-level threats and won. We've fought battles where the odds said we should die, and we're still here. Know why? Silence. Because we're too stubborn to die, too skilled to fail, and too committed to the mission to accept defeat. And for the next 72 hours, that's your mentality too. You stop thinking like expendable troopers. You start thinking like Spartans." He paused. "We're going to train you. Not how to use your weapons. You already know that. How to think, how to move, how to stay alive when everything around you is trying to kill you." One of the troopers, a corporal with burn scars across half his face, spoke up. "Chief, with respect, we've had mobile infantry, training. We've fought bugs. What can you teach us that our instructors couldn't?" Kelly stepped forward. "How not to die for nothing. Your doctrine treats soldiers as ammunition. You load them into the gun and fire until you hit the target. We'll teach you how to be the gun." The scared corporal stared at her, processing that, then slowly nodded. 48 hours, Chief repeated. "We turn you into a unit that can operate alongside Spartans. Then we go to Zegama Beach and show the Federation what victory actually looks like." Rashak saluted, fist over heart in federal style. His troopers followed suit. Chief returned the gesture, then added, "Spartans never die, Lieutenant, and neither will your people. That's a promise." The training yard at Firebase Victor had never seen anything like this. For 48 hours, Spartans drilled mobile infantry troopers in tactics that broke every federal doctrine manual. Chief watched from an observation platform as Kelly ran Rashak's squad through close-quarters tunnel combat, not the standard MI approach of advance and shoot until something dies, but flowing movement that used terrain, created crossfire lanes, and minimized exposure. A trooper, Private Chen, 19 years old, survivor of 2 planetary evacuations, hesitated at a simulated tunnel junction. In real combat, that hesitation meant death. Kelly appeared behind her so fast, Chen gasped, moved the private's rifle to proper position, adjusted her stance. "You're thinking like prey," Kelly said, voice firm but not harsh. "Bugs are faster than you, stronger than you, more numerous than you. So you don't fight their fight. You create kill zones they have to enter. Funnel them into angles where their speed doesn't matter. Use the environment as your weapon." "But the manuals say." "The manuals are written by people who accept 70% casualties," Kelly interrupted. "I don't. You survive by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than anything trying to kill you. Now run it again." Chen ran it again. Better this time. She pre-positioned at the junction, used her motion tracker to anticipate the simulated contact, fired a burst that would have crippled a warrior bug's leg joints. Not perfect, but improving. Across the yard, Kurt had 6 troopers on the firing range, teaching them precision marksmanship. Not the suppressive fire doctrine MI favored, but surgical shots that exploited anatomical weaknesses. Warrior Bug has 3 critical points, Kurt explained, his sniper rifle disassembled on the table before him. Brain cluster behind the eyes, small target, instant kill. Nerve nexus where the thorax meets abdomen, severs motor control, immobilizes the target. Joint clusters in the leg sockets, mobility kill, makes them easy prey. He reassembled the rifle without looking. Muscle memory from 10,000 field strips. Your Merita rifles don't have the penetration for armor strikes, so you don't shoot the armor. You shoot what the armor doesn't cover. Sergeant Flores, the scarred veteran who'd questioned Chief 2 days ago, sighted down his rifle at a holographic bug projection. His first shot went center mass. Conventional target practice. The round sparked off simulated chitin. Ineffective. Again, Kurt said. This time, imagine that bug just killed your fire team. Imagine you have 1 shot before it reaches you. Where do you aim? Flores's jaw tightened. He adjusted, aimed, fired. The round punched through the projection's eye cluster. Better. Now do it 12 more times without missing. Down in the hand-to-hand combat section, Fred was teaching troopers how to survive if a bug got past their weapons. Not kill. MI troops lacked the strength to kill warrior bugs barehanded, but survive long enough to create separation and bring weapons to bear. Bug grabs you. You're dead if you panic. Fred demonstrated on a weighted training dummy modified to simulate warrior bug grip strength. They'll crush your torso or rip you in half, so you don't fight the grip, you attack the gripper. He drove his armored fist into the joint where the dummy's limb connected. Joints are weak points. Hit them hard enough and the bug loses that limb. Gives you 3 seconds to break contact and shoot it. Chief, a trooper named Kowalski said, raising his hand. We don't have powered armor. We can't hit that hard. Then you use explosives, Fred replied, pulling a grenade from his belt. You don't fight fair. Bug grabs you, you shove this into its mouth and blow its head off from the inside. Messy, but effective. The troopers stared at the grenade, then at each other. It was the kind of desperate, brutal tactic that federal manuals mentioned but didn't emphasize. Too risky, too likely to cause friendly casualties, too psychologically traumatic for mass deployment forces. It was also exactly the kind of tactic that kept soldiers alive when conventional approaches failed. Chief descended from the observation platform, moving through the training stations. His presence didn't interrupt the work. Spartans were used to operating under command scrutiny, and the MI troopers were learning to treat every moment as mission critical. He found Rasak reviewing tactical displays with Linda, who'd taken it upon herself to teach the lieutenant proper reconnaissance doctrine. Your standard recon is loud, Linda said bluntly. Dropships announce your arrival, ground vehicles create seismic signatures, and your comm traffic is constant. Bugs have to be deaf and stupid not to know you're coming. Our doctrine emphasizes rapid deployment over stealth, Rasak said, though his tone suggested he was open to alternatives. We hit fast, hit hard, establish beachheads before the enemy can concentrate forces. Which works against enemies that need time to mobilize, Linda countered. Bugs live underground. They're always concentrated. You're not surprising them. You're giving them time to prepare ambushes. She pulled up orbital imagery of Zegma Beach. This operation, we go in quiet. High altitude insertion, no engine signatures until we're already in atmosphere. We land outside primary tunnel detection range, approach on foot. By the time the bugs know we're there, we're already inside their command center. Rasak studied the approach vectors. That's Actually brilliant. But it means my troopers march 20 clicks in hostile territory before engaging. They'll be exhausted before the fight even starts. Better exhausted than dead, Chief said, joining the conversation. Linda's right. Surprise is a weapon. We've been using it against superior forces for 30 years. Chief, Rashak said carefully, I need to understand something. You're Spartans. You talk about 30 years of war, about fighting extinction-level threats. But you all look young. How is that possible? It was a question Chief had expected. The Spartans' physical age didn't match their experience. Augmentation and Mjolnir armor masked the signs of decades of combat. To outside observers, they looked like soldiers in their 20s, not veterans of a multi-generational conflict. We started young, Chief said simply. Younger than your troopers. The UNSC needed soldiers who could face the Covenant threat. So they found children with the right genetic markers and turned them into weapons. Augmentation, training, conditioning. By the time most people enlist, we'd already been fighting for years. Rashak's expression shifted through several emotions. Shock, horror, understanding. Child soldiers. They made you into child soldiers. They made us into Spartans, Chief corrected. There's a difference. We weren't conscripts or victims. We were humanity's best chance at survival, and we succeeded. He met Rashak's eyes. I won't apologize for what I am or how I got here, but I will use what I am to save lives, including your troopers. The lieutenant nodded slowly. I've sent boys 18 years old into battles I knew they wouldn't survive. Watched them die following orders that came from command officers who measured success by casualty projections. At least your creators were honest about what they were doing. He paused. If training child soldiers is what it takes to win an extinction war, maybe we've been too squeamish. Don't, Kelly said, appearing beside them with that unnerving Spartan speed. Don't go down that road. What they did to us, what they turned us into, it saved humanity, but it cost us everything normal people take for granted. Childhood, choice, the ability to be anything other than weapons. Her voice was hard. You want to win your war? Do it with the soldiers you have, trained properly. Don't create more people like us. It was the most emotion Chief had heard from Kelly in months. The Spartan program was a wound that never fully healed. The necessary sacrifice that saved billions, but destroyed the lives of the children who made it. Noted, Rashak said quietly. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry that happened to you. Kelly's posture softened fractionally. Save your sorry. Help us make sure no one else has to make that choice. Colonel Harris arrived in a command vehicle, its engine echoing across the training yard. He climbed out with Dr. Weaver and Major Vickers, all three looking like they'd been in meetings for the past 8 hours straight. Chief, Harris called out. We need to talk. New intelligence from Zagema Beach. They gathered in a hastily cleared briefing room. Harris pulled up orbital reconnaissance footage, recent captures from federal spy satellites that had survived the initial bug occupation. This was taken 6 hours ago, Harris said, highlighting a section of Zagema Beach's primary industrial complex. We're seeing activity we didn't expect. The bugs haven't just occupied the shipyards, they're using them. The footage showed warrior bugs moving massive metal components, tanker bugs spraying some kind of biocement, and smaller engineering class bugs that looked disturbingly like they were operating machinery. They're building something, Dr. Weaver said, her scientific fascination warring with obvious dread. We knew arachnids could use basic tools, but this suggests technological adaptation far beyond what we've previously documented. Or the skinnies are helping them, Vickers suggested, providing technical expertise to turn our own infrastructure against us. Chief studied the footage with growing concern. The Covenant had been technologically superior, but predictable. They used their own weapons, their own ships, their own systems. These bugs were different. They were adapting, learning, turning human infrastructure into hybrid biological-mechanical constructs. "What are they building?" Chief asked. "Unknown," Harris admitted. "But the power signatures suggest massive energy consumption. Whatever it is, it's either a weapon or a factory, maybe both." "This changes our mission parameters," Kurt observed. "We're not just eliminating command structure and denying them the planet. We're stopping whatever they're constructing." "Can we?" Rashak asked. "If the bugs are actively using federal technology, if they've got skinny support, then we destroy it," Chief said flatly. "Infiltration, elimination, sabotage. Same plan, expanded objectives." He looked at Harris. "We'll need tactical nuclear charges, small yields sufficient to collapse the industrial complex without rendering the entire planet uninhabitable." Harris's eyes widened. "You're talking about nuclear deployment on federal soil. On bug-occupied territory that's being used to build weapons against humanity," Chief corrected. "Colonel, you wanted proof we can retake bug-held worlds. This is how you do it. Surgical strikes, overwhelming force at critical points, leave nothing for them to use. General Owen will never authorize. He already authorized us to do whatever necessary to neutralize the bug threat on Zegama Beach," Chief interrupted. "This falls under that authorization." Vickers stepped forward, face red. "Absolutely not. You're suggesting we hand nuclear weapons to unknown foreign combatants and trust them to deploy them on a federal colony world. That's insanity." "That's war," Kelly shot back. "Your colonies are already lost? You're just too afraid to admit it. We're offering you a chance to take one back, if you're too scared of the cost." "Enough," Harris said, though without much force. He looked at Chief. "The General will need to approve this personally. It's a significant escalation." "Then get his approval," Chief said. "Because in 48 hours, we're dropping on Zegama Beach. Either we have the tools to do the job properly, or we improvise with whatever we find. Your choice." Harris and Vickers left to brief General Owen. Dr. Weaver lingered, studying the Spartans with undisguised fascination. "You're very confident," she said. 24 soldiers against potentially millions of bugs. Most military analysts would call that suicide." "Most military analysts haven't fought the Flood," Fred replied. "The Flood? Parasitic organism that turned entire species into biological weapons," Fred explained. "Consumed billions, threatened to extinct all sentient life in the galaxy. We stopped it." He checked his rifle, matter of fact. "Bugs are dangerous, but they're not the Flood." Dr. Weaver stared at him, trying to process the casual way he described galactic-scale horror. How do you keep fighting after seeing things like that?" "Because the alternative is extinction," Chief said. "Doctor, you want to understand Spartans. Understand this. We've seen what happens when humanity loses. We've walked through the ashes of glassed planets, watched civilizations die, buried soldiers we trained alongside. We know the cost of failure, so we don't fail." She nodded slowly, then pulled out a data pad. "I've been analyzing your combat footage. The way you move, the tactical decisions, the absolute confidence even in impossible situations. It's remarkable, but also concerning." "Concerning how?" Chief asked. "You don't fight like soldiers trying to survive. You fight like weapons trying to eliminate targets. There's no fear, no hesitation, no self-preservation instinct that isn't purely tactical. Her eyes were sympathetic, but clinical. "What did they take from you to make you this effective?" Kelly answered before Chief could. "Everything that would have made us hesitate, and everything that would have let us quit." The training continued through the night and into the next day. By hour 40, the mobile infantry volunteers were moving differently, more efficiently, more confidently, with the beginning of that ruthless economy of motion that characterized Spartan operations. They'd never be super soldiers, but they'd learn to think like them. Rashak's transformation was particularly notable. The lieutenant had always been competent, but now he operated with surgical precision, anticipating threats, positioning his people optimally, making decisions that prioritized both mission success and soldier survival. "You're a natural," Kurt told him after a particularly clean training run. "You've got the instincts. You just needed permission to trust them instead of following doctrine." "Federal doctrine is written to manage millions of soldiers," Rashak replied. "Your doctrine is written to maximize elite operators, different tools, different approaches. But only one approach wins against enemies that outbreed you," Kurt countered. "Mass deployment works until you run out of mass, then you need quality." At hour 47, General Owen arrived personally, accompanied by an armed escort and carrying a sealed case. He found Chief in the armory, supervising final weapons checks. "Master Chief," Owen said formally, "I'm authorizing deployment of 3 Mark 7 tactical nuclear devices, yield adjustable from 0.5 to 5 kilotons. You will deploy them only on my direct authorization, or if you determine bug activity poses imminent threat to federal territory." He opened the case, revealing compact cylinders that didn't look like they could level city blocks. "These are our most advanced tactical weapons. Do not make me regret this." Chief accepted the case. "You won't, General." "I hope not." Owen looked at the assembled Spartans, the MI volunteers going through final preparations. 47 years old, Chief. I've been a soldier longer than you've been alive, if your file is accurate. I've commanded thousands, fought on dozens of worlds, made decisions that killed good people for strategic necessity." He paused. "In all that time, I've never felt as much like I'm gambling everything on a single roll of the dice." "You're not gambling," Chief said. "You're investing in people who don't know how to lose." "Prove it," Owen said. "Bring my people back alive. Show me that victories don't have to be measured in casualties. Show me there's a way to win this war without bleeding ourselves extinct." Chief met the general's eyes. Saw the exhaustion there, the weight of command, the desperate hope that maybe, finally, there was a path forward that didn't end in acceptable losses. "Spartans never die," Chief said, "and neither will your soldiers." "That's not a promise, General. It's operational doctrine." 6 hours later, they boarded the stealth dropship bound for Zagema Beach. 24 Spartans, 12 mobile infantry volunteers, 3 nuclear devices. One chance to prove surgical strikes could win battles that mass deployment couldn't. The war was about to change. Zagema Beach looked peaceful from orbit. A blue-green jewel with white clouds drifting across oceans that had once hosted 3 million human souls. Chief watched through the dropship's viewport as they descended on silent engines, thermal shielding masking their approach. Below, the planet looked pristine, unmarred by the war consuming it. The illusion shattered when they hit lower atmosphere and the bug tunnel networks became visible. Massive excavations scarred the continental surfaces like infected wounds, kilometers-wide holes descending into darkness. Hundreds of them. The bugs hadn't just occupied Zagema Beach. They'd hollowed it out, transformed it into a hive complex of staggering scale. "Jesus," Private Chen whispered, pressing against the viewport. "How many bugs would it take to dig all that?" "Millions," Linda replied, checking her sniper rifle's scope calibration. Maybe tens of millions. And they did it in 8 weeks. Which means they're breeding exponentially, Fred added. Every day we don't stop them, the problem gets worse. The dropship, a federal stealth variant modified with Spartan recommended upgrades, descended toward a rocky plateau 23 kilometers from the primary industrial complex. No visible bug activity in the landing zone, but Chief's motion trackers showed thermal signatures in surrounding tunnel networks. They were landing in the middle of occupied territory. 2 minutes to touchdown, the pilot announced. Lieutenant Weiss, Federal Navy, had volunteered for the mission when she'd learned Spartans were leading it. She'd told Chief she was tired of flying evacuation runs and wanted to fly an attack mission for once. Rashak gathered his mobile infantry squad, 12 troopers, hand-picked veterans, each one a survivor of at least 3 major engagements. Sergeant Flores, Private Chen, Corporal Bronsky, and 9 others whose names Chief had memorized along with their combat records, medical histories, and psychological profiles. You didn't lead soldiers into hell without knowing exactly who they were. Sound off, Rashak ordered. Each trooper responded, voices steady despite the fact they were dropping into territory where federal forces had a 98% casualty rate within 24 hours. But they'd trained with Spartans. They'd learned to think like Spartans. They trusted their training. Chief activated the battalion-wide channel. Mission parameters: infiltrate primary industrial complex, identify bug construction project, eliminate brain bug command structure, deploy nuclear devices if necessary, exfiltrate with 0 casualties. Operational doctrine: Spartan silence until contact, weapons free on engagement, nobody gets left behind. He paused. We've fought worse. We've won against worse. This is just another day. Ura, Kelly said. The old UNSC Marine battle cries sounding strange in this universe, but somehow appropriate. The other Spartans echoed it. Then, surprisingly, so did the mobile infantry troopers, adapting the unfamiliar war cry like they were adopting Spartan doctrine itself. The dropship touched down with barely a vibration. Rear ramp dropped, revealing Zagima Beach's rust-colored landscape under a pale afternoon sun. Chief was first out, MA-5C assault rifle up, motion tracker scanning. His HUD painted the terrain in tactical overlays, optimal approach vectors, probable ambush positions, thermal signatures marking tunnel entrances. Clear, for now. The Spartans deployed in perfect silence, establishing a security perimeter while the MI troopers disembarked. No verbal orders needed. Every Spartan knew their position, their sector, their responsibilities. This was muscle memory from 1,000 combat drops. Kurt took overwatch on a rocky outcrop, sniper rifle covering their approach route. Kelly ranged ahead, scouting the first kilometer of their infiltration path. Linda positioned herself to cover their 6. The other Spartans formed a protective diamond around the MI troopers, who moved with creditable stealth considering their comparative lack of experience. The dropship lifted off immediately, engine cycling to whisper quiet as it climbed back toward orbit. No extraction vehicle sitting in hostile territory. They'd call it back when they needed it, if they needed it. Chief led them forward, following the route Linda had mapped from orbital reconnaissance. The landscape was broken and treacherous. Volcanic rock formations, deep crevasses, and everywhere the signs of bug occupation. Chitin fragments littered the ground. Strange biological secretions marked territorial boundaries. And the smell, organic decay mixed with something acrid and alien, the scent of a hive that had processed millions of tons of biomass. They covered the first 10 kilometers in 90 minutes, moving at a pace that had the MI troopers breathing hard but keeping up. No contacts yet, but Chief's motion tracker showed increasing activity in nearby tunnel networks. The bugs knew something was here. They just hadn't localized the threat yet. "Chief," Kelly's voice came through on the private channel. "I've got the industrial complex visual. You need to see this." Chief moved forward to Kelly's position, a cliff edge overlooking the valley where Zagima Beach's shipyard sprawled. What he saw made him reassess the entire mission. The bugs hadn't just occupied the complex, they'd transformed it. The human shipyards were still recognizable, but covered in biological growth. Vast sheets of resin-like material that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Warrior bugs moved through the structures with purpose, hauling metal components toward massive organic structures that looked like they were grown rather than built. And in the center, towering 50 meters high, was something that defied categorization. Part machine, part organism, it resembled a massive flower with petals made of federal hull plating and a core that pulsed with sickly green light. Energy signatures emanating from it made Chief's radiation detectors spike. "That's not construction," Fred said, joining them on the cliff. "That's a weapon. Some kind of biological-mechanical hybrid." "Energy output?" Chief asked. Fred consulted his HUD. "Enough to power a federal fleet carrier. But it's not designed for propulsion. The energy's being channeled into a focused array. Chief, I think that's a planetary bombardment weapon. Something that could crack a planet's crust from orbit." Private Chen, who'd crawled up beside them, stared at the structure with naked horror. "They're building that? The bugs are building that?" "With skinny help," Linda observed. She'd moved to a position 300 meters right, using her scope to examine the complex's interior. "I'm seeing gray-skinned figures moving through the lower levels. They're operating machinery, coordinating bug workers. This is a joint operation." Chief pulled up the tactical nuclear devices General Owen had provided. 3 warheads, maximum yield 5 kilotons each. Enough to collapse the complex, destroy the weapon, and seal the tunnel networks beneath. But if the weapon was already operational, if the bugs could activate it before the Spartans could sabotage it... "Kurt," Chief said. "Analysis. Can we infiltrate and plant charges before they detect us?" Kurt studied the complex through his scope, calculating angles and approach vectors. "Maybe. Security's heavy but focused outward. They're expecting orbital assault, not ground infiltration. If we approach through the eastern tunnel network, we can bypass most of the perimeter guards. But Chief, once we're inside, there's no stealth. The brain bug will know we're there the moment we kill the first warrior. Then we move fast," Chief decided. "Hit them so hard they don't have time to respond. Kelly, Fred, you're with me. Direct assault on the brain bug location. Kurt, Linda, establish sniper positions and provide overwatch. Everyone else, demolitions and security. Plant those nukes where they'll do maximum damage." "Chief," Rashak said carefully, "if you're splitting the force, my people should go with the demolitions team. We're trained for that. Let your Spartans handle the combat." It was sound tactical thinking, but Chief shook his head. "Your people go where you go, Lieutenant, and you're coming with me. I need someone who understands federal architecture to identify critical support structures. The nukes will collapse the complex, but if we can sabotage key systems first, we guarantee nothing survives." Rashak nodded, though Chief could see the fear beneath his professional composure. The lieutenant was brave. All these MI troopers were. But bravery didn't erase the very rational terror of walking into a hive complex filled with millions of bugs. "Spartans," Chief said on the battalion channel. "You know the drill. Fast, hard, and nobody dies today. Move out." They descended into the valley, using a combination of rappelling and controlled falls that would have killed normal humans. The MI troopers followed more carefully, using climbing gear and taking twice as long. Chief waited at the bottom, watching the complex entrance, a tunnel mouth 30 meters wide, lined with bioresin and guarded by a dozen warrior bugs. "Suppressed weapons," Chief ordered. "Take them quietly." 24 Spartans raised their weapons in perfect unison. The MI troopers followed a half-second later, copying the firing stance. When Chief gave the signal, they fired as one. The warrior bugs died without making a sound, precision headshots from 24 angles dropping them before they could alert the hive. Chief was already moving, crossing the gap to the tunnel entrance before the bodies stopped twitching. Inside, the tunnel was a nightmare of biological architecture. The walls pulsed with some kind of circulatory system, moving nutrients from the surface to deeper chambers. The floor was spongy, covered in secretions that muffled footsteps. And everywhere, the chittering sound of bugs moving through adjacent tunnels. A constant reminder they were surrounded by enemies. Chief's motion tracker lit up like a Christmas display. Red contacts in every direction, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. But they were moving in patterns, following routes, not responding to intruders. The hive didn't know they were here yet. "Stay tight," Chief ordered. "Follow my exact path. Don't touch the walls, they're probably sensory organs." They moved deeper, descending through tunnel networks that became increasingly complex. Chief's internal mapping systems tracked every turn, every junction, building a three-dimensional model of the hive structure. If they needed to extract fast, he'd know every escape route. 10 minutes in, they encountered their first patrol. 3 warrior bugs moving through an intersection, mandibles clicking as they communicated. Chief signaled a halt, let them pass, waited 30 seconds, then moved forward. 15 minutes in, they found the first chamber, a vast space filled with eggs. Thousands of them, each one containing a developing bug. The MI troopers stared in horrified fascination at the scale of bug reproduction. "Keep moving," Chief said quietly. "Don't engage. We're not here for the eggs." 20 minutes in, the tunnel opened into the industrial complex proper, and Chief realized the situation was worse than federal intelligence had estimated. The complex wasn't just modified, it was alive. The shipyard facilities had been integrated into a biological superstructure, human machinery fused with bug biotech in ways that should have been impossible. Assembly lines moved on their own, powered by pulsing organic conduits. Federal weapons systems had been repurposed, mounted on biomechanical platforms. And everywhere, warrior bugs and skinnies worked in disturbing coordination, building something vast and terrible. "Chief," Fred said, his voice tight with controlled alarm, "I'm reading massive power buildup in the central structure. That weapon, it's charging. They're going to test fire it." "Timeline?" Chief demanded. "Unknown. Could be minutes, could be hours. But Chief, if that thing goes off while we're inside, then we stop it from going off," Chief interrupted. He pulled up his HUD's tactical overlay, identified the brain bug's location through thermal signatures. A massive heat bloom deep in the complex's core. "Fred, take Demolition's team and plant the nukes on primary support structures. Kurt, Linda, find elevated positions and be ready to cover our extraction. Kelly, Rashchak, with me. We're killing the brain bug." The teams split with practiced efficiency. Chief led his strike team deeper into the complex, moving through corridors that mixed human engineering with alien biology in grotesque fashion. They passed chambers where bugs were being grown in accelerated incubation pods, where skinny technicians operated machinery that looked like it belonged in a nightmare. And then they reached the brain bug's chamber. It was massive, 30 meters long, with a bulbous head that pulsed with bioluminescent thought patterns. Smaller bugs surrounded it, attendants and guards forming a living wall, and standing beside it, operating some kind of neural interface, was a skinny wearing what looked like technical equipment. The brain bug's eyes, all 12 of them, locked onto Chief, and he felt it. A pressure against his mind, probing, testing, trying to understand what had invaded its hive. Then it screamed, not with sound but with psychic force that made even Chief's augmented mind real, and every bug in the complex knew they were there. "Contact!" Kelly shouted, her shotgun roaring as warrior bugs poured into the chamber. "Spartans, weapons free!" The industrial complex erupted into chaos, and deep in its core, a weapon designed to crack planets began counting down to activation. The brain bug's psychic scream rippled through the hive like a shockwave. Chief felt it as pressure behind his eyes, an invasive touch that tried to peel back his thoughts. But Spartans had been trained against Covenant interrogation techniques, had learned to compartmentalize under neural stress. He shoved the presence out of his mind and opened fire. His first burst took down 3 warrior bugs, scrambling over their dying companions. Kelly moved like liquid violence beside him, her shotgun punching fist-sized holes through chitin armor at point-blank range. Raskzak and his MI troopers established a firing line, their Merida rifles cracking in disciplined volleys that targeted joints and nerve clusters exactly as Kurt had taught them. "Fred, status," Chief barked into the comm. "Charges placed on support columns 3, 7, and 9. Fred's voice came through over the sound of sustained gunfire. "We're fighting through to the central pylon. 30 seconds. Warrior bugs flooded the chamber in a tide of claws and mandibles. Chief burned through half his magazine in controlled bursts, each shot a kill, but for every bug that fell, 3 more took its place. The hive was mobilizing, not just the guards, but the workers, the drones, everything with combat capability. The skinny technician at the neural interface turned toward them, its triple-jointed fingers dancing across alien controls. The massive biomechanical weapon in the complex's center pulsed with increasing intensity, energy signatures spiking toward critical mass. "That skinny is activating the weapon," Linda reported from her overwatch position. Through her scope, she had visual on the entire complex. "Chief, you've got maybe 2 minutes before that thing fires. Take the shot," Chief ordered. Linda's rifle cracked once. The skinny's head exploded in a spray of gray matter. But the damage was done. The weapon's countdown continued, automated systems taking over where the technician had left off. Chief made a split-second tactical decision. "Kelly, hold this position. Rashak, your people cover her." He was already moving, sprinting toward the brain bug through a corridor of dying warrior bugs. His shields flared gold as plasma fire from a tanker bug washed over him, absorbed the damage, began recharging. The brain bug tried to retreat, its massive bulk dragging across the chamber floor. The attendant bugs threw themselves at Chief, not attacking, just blocking, creating a living wall with their bodies. Chief didn't slow down. He hit the wall at full sprint, his armor's mass and augmented strength scattering bugs like bowling pins. 5 meters from the brain bug, Chief drew his combat knife, a 20-centimeter blade of titanium carbide that could puncture Covenant energy shields. He leaped, brought the knife down in a 2-handed strike that punched through the brain bug's cranial carapace. The psychic scream that followed wasn't probing or controlling. It was agony, transmitted, with enough force that every bug in the complex froze. Chief drove the knife deeper, twisted, felt the blade sever neural clusters that controlled millions of drones. The brain bug convulsed once, twice, then died, its massive body collapsing as biological functions ceased. The effect was immediate and devastating. Warrior bugs stopped mid-attack, mandibles slack. Workers dropped their loads. Even the bugs fighting Kelly and the MI troopers simply stopped. Not dead, but rudderless, waiting for commands that would never come. "Brain bug neutralized," Chief reported. "All team status?" "Charges set," Fred responded. Timer synced, ready to blow on your mark. Overwatch is clear, Kurt added. But Chief, we've got a problem. That weapon is still charging. It's operating on independent power. Killing the brain bug didn't shut it down. Chief looked at the massive biomechanical construct towering over the complex. Energy was building in its core, visible as crackling green lightning that arced between its metal petals. Federal instruments weren't designed to measure this kind of power, but his armor's sensors estimated yields in the petaton range, enough to sterilize a continent. Can we shut it down manually? Chief asked. Negative, Linda replied. The control systems are too integrated, biological and mechanical fused at the molecular level. We'd need hours to understand the interface, and we have minutes. Chief's tactical computer ran the scenarios. Detonate the nuclear charges now and hope the explosion disrupted the weapon before it fired. Risk. The weapon might survive long enough to activate, and the resulting detonation would kill everyone in the complex, including the Spartans and MI troopers. Alternatively, someone needed to get inside the weapon's core and physically sabotage it from within. That was a suicide mission. Chief, Kelly said quietly over the private channel, reading his thoughts like she'd done for 20 years. Don't even think about it. We're all getting out of here. The weapon fires, it kills millions, Chief replied. Potentially cracks the planet. We can't let that happen. So we blow the nukes and run, Kelly argued. Get to minimum safe distance before... There is no safe distance if that thing activates, Chief interrupted. He looked at his Spartans, soldiers he'd trained with, fought beside, trusted with his life countless times. Looked at Rashak and the MI troopers who'd learned to be brave enough to follow Spartans into hell. He'd promised General Owen 0 casualties, promised these soldiers they'd all come home. Spartans kept their promises. New plan, Chief said. Everyone but me extracts immediately. I'm staying to manually sabotage the weapon. Fred, leave me one nuke on a dead man's switch. If I can't stop it, I'll detonate point blank and take the weapon with me. Chief, no. Multiple Spartans started to protest. That's an order. Chief's voice carried the weight of absolute command. You have your mission parameters. Extract with 0 casualties. I'm staying to ensure mission success. Move out now. Rashak grabbed Chief's arm, a gesture that would have been suicidal with anyone else, but the lieutenant was too desperate to care. Chief, you can't. We trained with you. We trusted you. You promised we'd all survive. I promised you'd all survive, Chief corrected gently. I kept that promise. Now go, Lieutenant. Get your people home. Kelly stepped in front of Chief, visor to visor. John, I followed you through every nightmare the galaxy could throw at us. I'm not leaving you here to die alone. For a moment, Chief considered ordering her to leave. Then he realized the futility. Kelly would disobey, would stay regardless of orders, because that's what Spartans did. They fought together. Fine, Chief said. Fred, you're in command. Extract everyone else. Kelly and I will handle the weapon. Chief, Fred started. Go, Chief barked. That's a direct order from your commanding officer. Extract now or face court-martial when we get home. Fred hesitated, torn between obedience and brotherhood. Finally, his training won. Acknowledged. All Spartans except Chief and Kelly fall back to extraction point. Mobile infantry, move out. The complex emptied with remarkable speed. Spartans herded the MI troopers toward the exit tunnels, fighting through disorganized warrior bugs that were still recovering from their brain bug's death. Explosions echoed as Fred's team detonated charges on support structures, bringing sections of the complex down to cover their retreat. Within 3 minutes, Chief and Kelly were alone in the heart of the hive, standing before a weapon that was counting down to planetary genocide. So, Kelly said, loading fresh shells into her shotgun, How do we kill this thing? Chief studied the weapon's structure. The core was accessible through maintenance tunnels, federal engineering mixed with bug biology, creating crawl spaces that a Spartan in Mjolnir armor could barely squeeze through. The energy buildup was concentrated in a central chamber where biological power conduits met mechanical distribution nodes. "We go inside," Chief said. "Find the power distribution center. Overload it." "And the radiation?" Kelly asked. Her sensors were reading levels that would kill an unshielded human in seconds. "Our shields will hold, probably." Chief attached the tactical nuke to his armor's magnetic hardpoint. "If they don't, at least we'll die fast." They entered the weapon through a maintenance tunnel that vibrated with contained energy. The walls were hot enough to glow, biological tissue charring from the power flowing through it. Chief's radiation detector was screaming warnings. His HUD politely suggested he evacuate immediately. He ignored it and crawled deeper. The tunnel opened into a chamber that defied comprehension. Power conduits as thick as tree trunks pulsed with green energy, feeding into a crystalline core that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Around it, dead skinny technicians lay where they'd fallen. The energy levels had killed them hours ago, but they'd stayed at their posts, slaves to a purpose Chief couldn't understand. "There." Kelly pointed at a junction where biological and mechanical systems merged. "That's the primary distribution node. We overload that, the whole system cascades." Chief pulled the tactical nuke from his armor, set it to manual detonation, 0.5 kiloton yield. "On 3, we dump everything we have into that node. Grenades, power cells, anything that explodes. Then we run like hell and hope we're fast enough." "And if we're not?" Kelly asked. Chief looked at her, the Spartan who'd run by his side since they were children, who'd saved his life more times than he could count, who'd never hesitated when the mission required sacrifice. "Then we die stopping a weapon that would have killed billions," Chief said. "I can live with that." Kelly grinned behind her visor. "You always did have a flair for the dramatic." They armed every explosive they carried. Fragmentation grenades, plasma cells, the power packs from their weapons. Placed them carefully around the distribution node, wired them to detonate in sequence. Chief set the nuke's timer to 30 seconds, giving them just enough time to reach minimum safe distance. Maybe. "Ready?" Chief asked. "Born ready," Kelly replied. Chief activated the countdown, grabbed Kelly's arm, and ran. They sprinted through tunnels at speeds that would have torn apart normal humans, Mjolnir armor's enhanced movement systems pushed to maximum. Behind them, the grenades detonated in cascade. First the fragmentation, then the plasma, then the power cells, each explosion feeding into the next. The distribution node overloaded. Energy that was meant to flow through controlled channels suddenly had nowhere to go. It backfed into the weapon's core, into the biological conduits, into every system simultaneously. The weapon began to tear itself apart. Chief and Kelly burst from the maintenance tunnel as the weapon's core went critical. The explosion was smaller than a nuke, but more violent. Uncontrolled energy release that turned the biomechanical construct inside out. Metal petals sheared away, spinning through the air like massive blades. The crystalline core shattered, releasing radiation in a pulse that made Chief's shields flare and die. They ran through the dying complex as sections collapsed around them. Warrior bugs, still paralyzed without their brain bug, were crushed by falling debris. Tunnel networks imploded as the structural supports Fred had sabotaged gave way. "Exit tunnel, 200 meters." Kelly gasped, her enhanced physiology stressed past normal limits. Chief's shields were gone, his armor taking direct radiation exposure. Warning lights flashed across his HUD, dangerous levels, potentially lethal. But Spartan augmentations were designed to survive what would kill normal humans. He'd survive this. Probably. They burst from the tunnel entrance as the first tactical nuke detonated behind them. The shockwave picked them up like toys, threw them 50 meters across the rocky plateau. Chief's armor absorbed impacts that would have liquefied organs, his shields somehow still trying to regenerate, flickering weakly. The second and third nukes detonated in sequence. The entire industrial complex collapsed inward, millions of tons of metal and bug resin falling into tunnel networks that were themselves collapsing. The weapon's death throes mixed with nuclear fire, creating an explosion visible from orbit. Chief lay on his back, staring at Zegma Beach's sky, his armor smoking and radiation alarms still screaming. Beside him, Kelly groaned and rolled over. "We alive?" she asked. Chief checked his biometrics. Elevated radiation exposure, but within survivable limits. Multiple armor breaches, but Mjolnir's self-sealing protocols had engaged. Shields recharging slowly, energy reserves at 12%. "Yes," he said. "We're alive." "Good," Kelly said, "because Fred's going to kill us for that stunt." The dropship appeared overhead, its engines howling as Lieutenant Weiss brought it down on emergency approach. The rear ramp dropped before it even touched ground, and Spartans poured out. Fred, Kurt, Linda, all of them rushing toward Chief and Kelly with the barely controlled panic of soldiers who thought their friends were dead. "You idiots!" Fred shouted, pulling Chief to his feet with more force than necessary. "You beautiful, insane idiots!" Behind the Spartans, the MI troopers emerged more slowly, staring at the mushroom clouds rising from what used to be the industrial complex. Rashak approached Chief, his face a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You survived that," the lieutenant said. "You actually survived that." "Spartans never die," Chief replied, then amended. "We're just missing in action." They boarded the dropship as secondary explosions rippled across the complex. The entire hive was collapsing, tunnel networks imploding for kilometers in every direction. Millions of bugs dying in the fire and rubble, their command structure destroyed, their weapon neutralized. Their occupation of Zegma Beach ended. As the dropship climbed toward orbit, Chief looked back at the dying hive. One complex destroyed, one brain bug eliminated, one planet retaken. And across federal space, 46 more worlds waiting for liberation. General Owen's voice came through on the command channel. "Master Chief, what's your status?" "Mission accomplished," Chief reported. "Brain bug eliminated, weapon destroyed, industrial complex neutralized, 0 friendly casualties." A long pause, then, "0 casualties. You promised 0 casualties, and you actually delivered 0 casualties." "Yes, sir," Chief said. "That's what Spartans do." Another pause, longer this time. When Owen spoke again, his voice carried something Chief hadn't heard before. Hope. "Welcome to the war, Chief. I think we're going to win this thing after all." The Firebase Victor Command Center erupted in controlled chaos when the Spartans returned. Officers crowded around holographic displays showing satellite footage of Zegma Beach, the collapsed industrial complex, the imploded tunnel networks, the scorch patterns from 3 tactical nuclear detonations. Intelligence analysts scrambled to confirm what their instruments were telling them. A Category 5 loss had just been recategorized as a strategic victory. General Owen stood at the center of it all, watching orbital reconnaissance update in real time. The bug infestation that had consumed Zegma Beach for 8 weeks was simply gone. Millions of arachnids buried under rubble or killed in the cascading tunnel collapses. The weapon that could have cracked planets reduced to radioactive debris. And standing in his command center, looking barely worse for wear, were the 24 Spartans and 12 mobile infantry troopers who'd accomplished it. Casualties? Owen asked, though he already knew the answer. 0 KIA, 0 MIA, Chief reported. Kelly and I took moderate radiation exposure during the weapon sabotage. Mjolnir armor filtered most of it. We'll be combat ready in 48 hours. 48 hours, Owen repeated slowly. You took enough radiation to kill a normal human 10 times over, and you need 48 hours to recover. Spartan augmentations include enhanced cellular regeneration and radiation resistance, Chief explained. Standard protocol for operating in high contamination environments. Dr. Weaver was practically vibrating with scientific curiosity, but Owen held up a hand before she could launch into questions. Later, Doctor. Right now, I need Chief's after-action assessment. He gestured at the holographic display. You just accomplished what federal doctrine said was impossible. I need to understand how, so we can determine if it's replicable. Chief pulled up tactical overlays on the display. 3 factors made this operation successful. First, intelligence. We studied bug behavior patterns, identified their command structure vulnerability, and exploited it. Federal forces tend to engage bugs as a uniform mass. They're not. There's a hierarchy. Brain bugs command, warrior bugs enforce, worker bugs support. Kill the brain and the hierarchy collapses. He highlighted sections of the destroyed complex. Second, surgical strikes instead of mass deployment. We inserted a small force, moved fast, hit critical targets before the bugs could mass forces. No prolonged engagement, no attrition warfare. In and out before they could adapt. And third, Owen asked. Force multiplication through training, Chief said, nodding toward Raskok and his squad. Lieutenant Raskok's people performed flawlessly because we taught them to think like special operators instead of line infantry. They moved efficiently, shot precisely, and maintained discipline under conditions that would break untrained soldiers. That's replicable. With proper training protocols, federal forces can adopt similar tactics. Colonel Harris stepped forward. Chief, I've reviewed the helmet cam footage. Your Spartans engaged thousands of hostiles in a confined space and suffered 0 casualties. That's not just training. That's technology and augmentation we can't replicate. How do we scale your success with standard mobile infantry? It was the question Chief had been expecting. The one he'd been thinking about since they'd pulled the MI troopers from that first bug swarm. The Federation wanted to know if Spartans could teach an army to fight like Spartans. The answer was complicated. You can't make your soldiers into Spartans, Chief said bluntly. The augmentation process started when we were children. It's not something you can apply to adults. The rejection rate would be catastrophic. And even if you could, you lack the industrial infrastructure to produce Mjolnir armor at scale. He could see the disappointment on their faces. But Chief wasn't finished. However, he continued, you can adopt Spartan doctrine, small unit tactics, precision targeting, intelligence-driven operations, force multiplication through quality instead of quantity. He pulled up a strategic map of federal space. You've been fighting a defensive war of attrition, fortifying positions, accepting losses, measuring victory by casualty projections. That plays into the bug's strength. They outbreed you. They adapt faster. They win through numbers. Chief highlighted 6 bug-occupied worlds. But they have weaknesses. Brain bugs are centralized command, vulnerable to decapitation strikes. Tunnel networks are extensive but structurally vulnerable to targeted explosives. Their warrior bugs are fast and deadly, but predictable. They follow biological programming, not tactical innovation. He looked at Owen. General, you don't need super soldiers. You need special operations forces trained to exploit these weaknesses. Small teams, surgical strikes. Hit them where they're vulnerable. Withdraw before they can mass forces. Repeat until their occupation becomes unsustainable. You're describing a complete restructuring of mobile infantry doctrine, Major Vickers said from the back of the room. The Federation has spent decades developing mass deployment strategies. The logistical chains, the training pipelines, the industrial output, everything is optimized for large-scale operations. And you're losing, Kelly said flatly. She'd been standing near the back, arms crossed, but now she stepped forward. You've lost 47 colonies in 18 months. Your casualty rates are unsustainable. Your current doctrine is killing your species slowly. Chief's offering you an alternative. An alternative that requires trusting unknown foreign combatants with operational authority over federal forces. Vickers shot back. An alternative that abandons proven strategies for untested theories. Untested? Rashak interrupted, his voice carrying the edge of suppressed anger. Major, I watched these Spartans tear through 600 bugs like they were target practice. I fought beside them in tunnels that should have been our graves. They taught me and my people tactics that actually work, not suicide charges disguised as acceptable losses. There's nothing untested about their methods. We just proved they work. The room went silent. A lieutenant publicly contradicting a major would normally mean disciplinary action. But Rashak stood his ground, and Chief saw several other officers nodding in agreement. Younger ones, combat veterans who'd seen too many friends die in federal meat grinders. Owen raised a hand. Stand down, Lieutenant. Your passion is noted. He turned to Vickers. Major, your concerns about operational security are valid, but so is Lieutenant Rashak's combat experience. We have empirical evidence that Spartan doctrine works. He looked at Chief. The question is implementation. How do we train federal forces to operate like your Spartans without the technology and augmentation that makes Spartans what they are? You create a special operations division, Chief said. Recruit from your best soldiers, veterans with multiple deployments, high combat effectiveness ratings, demonstrated tactical thinking. Put them through intensive training focused on small unit tactics, precision targeting, and independent operation. Give them slightly better equipment than standard MI. Nothing exotic, just optimized loadouts and upgraded armor. Then deploy them as rapid response strike teams targeting bug command structures. He pulled up organizational charts. Start small. 5 teams of 12 operators each, 60 soldiers total. The Spartans will train them personally, 6 weeks intensive, then operational deployment with Spartan advisors embedded. We run 20 missions over 6 months. Prove the concept works, then scale up. And your Spartans would lead these operations? Owen asked. Initially, yes. Until your people learn the doctrine well enough to operate independently. We're not here to replace your military, General. We're here to teach it how to win. Dr. Weaver had been studying the tactical displays with fascination. Chief, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from that weapon you destroyed. It was remarkable. A hybrid of federal technology and Arachnid biology, operating on principles we don't fully understand. The skinnies must have provided the theoretical framework, but the implementation was beyond anything in federal science. What's your point, Doctor? Owen asked. My point is that the bugs are adapting faster than we realized, Weaver said. That weapon was built in 8 weeks. 8 weeks from initial occupation to near operational planetary bombardment capability. If they can do that on one world, they can do it on all 46 occupied worlds. We might be facing a timeline where the bugs develop weapons we can't counter. The implication hung in the air like a physical weight. Planetary bombardment weapons. Maybe worse, biological superweapons, self-replicating war machines, technologies that made current federal arsenals obsolete. How long until the bugs could deploy similar weapons across their occupied territories? Owen asked quietly. Weaver consulted her data. Unknown, but if they're receiving skinny technical support at this rate, months, not years. We don't have time for slow strategic planning. We need rapid, aggressive action. Chief felt the room's attention focus on him, the weight of command, of expectations, of desperate hope. These people were losing an extinction war. They needed more than tactics. They needed a reason to believe victory was possible. General, Chief said, the Covenant had us outnumbered 1,000 to 1. They had better ships, better weapons, religious fanaticism driving them to exterminate humanity. Federal intelligence would have calculated our odds of survival at near zero. What changed? Owen asked. We refused to accept those odds, Chief replied. We adapted. We learned. We found their weaknesses and exploited them ruthlessly. We turned their advantages against them. And we never, ever stopped fighting. He straightened, his armored form seeming to fill the command center. Your Federation is making the same mistake the UNSC made early in the Covenant War. You're fighting the enemy's war instead of your own. You're playing their game by their rules. Stop. He gestured at the map of federal space. These 46 occupied worlds, they're not losses. They're targets. The bugs are consolidating, building infrastructure, growing comfortable. That makes them vulnerable. We hit them systematically. Decapitation strikes, infrastructure destruction, tunnel network collapse. We make occupation so costly they can't sustain it. We turn their numbers against them by forcing them to defend too many positions simultaneously. You're talking about a multi-year campaign, Colonel Harris said. Sustained special operations across 46 worlds, with continuous training programs to build up federal special operations forces. The resource commitment would be enormous. The alternative is extinction, Chief said simply. General, you asked me to prove surgical strikes could work. We proved it. Now the question is, does the Federation have the will to commit to this strategy? Owen looked at the holographic display, at Zegama Beach's smoking ruins, at the 46 red markers indicating bug-occupied worlds, at the casualty projections that showed humanity slowly bleeding to death. Then he looked at Chief, at the Spartans standing in silent support behind their leader, at Raskak and his squad who'd survived the impossible. Isaac Owen had spent 47 years making hard decisions. This was just another one. Colonel Harris, Owen said, his voice carrying command authority. Draft orders establishing the Federal Special Operations Division. Lieutenant Rashak, you're promoted to captain and assigned as deputy commander. Master Chief, you and your Spartans have full operational authority over FSO training and deployment. He paused. I'm also recommending to Fleet Command that we accelerate this timeline. We don't hit 46 worlds over 6 months. We hit 12 worlds simultaneously in the next 60 days. The room erupted in startled voices. 12 simultaneous operations was insane. It would stretch federal resources to breaking, require perfect coordination, risk catastrophic failure if any operation went wrong. It was also exactly the kind of aggressive, asymmetric strategy that could change the war. General, Vickers protested. 12 simultaneous strikes is operationally reckless. Major, operationally cautious has lost us 47 colonies. Owen interrupted. I'm done being cautious. We're going on the offensive, and we're doing it with maximum aggression. He looked at Chief. Can your Spartans coordinate 12 strike teams simultaneously? Chief ran the calculations. 24 Spartans split across 12 operations, 2 Spartans per team as tactical advisors. Risky but manageable if they picked the targets carefully and ensured adequate federal support. Yes, sir, Chief said. With proper intelligence preparation and federal logistical support, we can coordinate 12 simultaneous operations. Then make it happen, Owen ordered. I want target selections within 48 hours, mission briefs within 1 week, and full deployment within 60 days. Gentlemen, ladies, the Federation is done losing this war. We're going to take our worlds back. The command staff dispersed to begin planning. Chief remained at the holographic display with his Spartans, already identifying optimal targets, worlds where brain bug concentrations were high, where tunnel networks were developing but not yet fully established, where federal forces could provide adequate support. Rashak, Captain Rashak now, approached with his characteristic directness. Chief, you just convinced Federal Command to completely restructure their war strategy based on one successful mission. That takes either enormous confidence or complete insanity. It's not confidence, Chief replied. It's experience. We've fought this war before, just with different enemies. The principles are the same. Identify critical vulnerabilities, strike with overwhelming force at decisive points, maintain operational tempo that prevents enemy adaptation. He looked at the newly promoted captain. You're going to help me train an entire Special Operations Division in 6 weeks. Think you're up for it? Rashak grinned, the expression of a soldier who'd spent too long losing and was finally given permission to win. Chief, I'd follow you into hell itself if you promised we'd come back alive. 6 weeks to train an elite force? Easy. Kelly laughed. I like him. He's got the right attitude. He's got survivor's guilt and a death wish, Fred observed clinically. Classic special operations candidate. He's got what he needs, Chief corrected. The will to do whatever it takes to protect his people. Everything else we can teach. Dr. Weaver approached, her scientific curiosity finally overcoming her restraint. Chief, I have to ask. In your universe, after you won your war against the Covenant, what happened? Did humanity rebuild? Expand? How did you ensure the victory lasted? Chief thought about Installation 04, about the Ark, about Cortana's sacrifice and the endless patrol missions hunting Covenant remnants. Thought about the uneasy peace that always felt temporary. The knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy, new threats were emerging. We survived, Chief said finally. And we stayed ready. Because winning a war doesn't mean the fight is over. It just means you bought time to prepare for the next one. He looked at her. Doctor, if we help you win this war, and we will, the Federation needs to remember what it cost. Remember what almost got lost. Build something worth protecting so you never have to fight this desperate again. Weaver nodded slowly. I'll make sure that message reaches the right people. Though honestly, after seeing what you Spartans can do, I suspect the Federation's going to want to build more soldiers like you. No, Chief said, and his voice carried absolute finality. No more Spartans. Train better soldiers, develop better tactics, build better equipment. But don't create more weapons like us. The galaxy doesn't need more people who can only fight. It needs people who remember how to live. The command center's lights dimmed as evening fell across Firebase Victor. Outside, mobile infantry troopers were already spreading stories of the impossible mission, of Spartans who walked through bug swarms untouched, of a new kind of warfare that didn't measure success in acceptable losses. And across federal space, on 46 occupied worlds, brain bugs sensed something new in the human resistance. Not desperation, not acceptance of slow extinction, determination, the kind that didn't break, didn't bend, didn't stop until victory was absolute. The war was changing. The bugs just didn't know it yet. 60 days later, 12 federal strike teams dropped simultaneously onto 12 bug-occupied worlds, in the largest coordinated special operations campaign in human history. Each team was led by federal officers trained personally by Spartans, advised by 2 Spartans operating as tactical consultants, and comprised of volunteers who'd survived the most intensive combat training program ever implemented. They hit brain bug command centers, collapsed tunnel networks, destroyed infrastructure, and extracted with minimal casualties. 11 of the 12 missions succeeded completely. The 12th, planet LV-229, designation Whiskey Outpost, became a massacre that would define the rest of the war. Chief knew something was wrong when Captain Hendricks' comm went dark 40 minutes into the operation. Hendricks was leading Strike Team 7 with Spartans 092 and 130 as advisors, solid operators, experienced team, straightforward mission profile. They should have been in and out within 3 hours. Instead, Chief's command display showed their locator beacons going offline one by one. "General," Chief said, his voice tight with controlled urgency. "We've lost contact with Team 7. Last telemetry showed them engaging unexpected resistance near the primary hive complex." Owen's face appeared on the holographic display, gray with exhaustion from coordinating 12 operations simultaneously. "Define unexpected resistance." "Unknown contact types. Energy signatures we haven't seen before." Team 7 reported engagement with bugs demonstrating coordinated tactical behavior, flanking maneuvers, ambush positioning, adaptive response to human tactics. Chief pulled up the last fragmentary transmission from Spartan 092. "They're learning. They're actually..." Then static. The command center went silent. Learning. The bugs were learning. "How?" Dr. Weaver demanded, pulling up biological data. "Arachnids don't have individual intelligence. They're hive-coordinated. They can adapt evolutionarily, but not tactically. Not in real time during a single engagement. Unless something's coordinating them differently," Kelly said. She'd been monitoring all 12 operations, ready to deploy as rapid response. "Chief, what if there's a new type of brain bug? Something more advanced than what we've encountered?" "Or skinny intervention," Kurt suggested. "They could have deployed combat coordinators, skinny tacticians directing bug forces using federal intelligence data." Chief made the decision instantly. "Kelly, Fred, Kurt, Linda, gear up. We're going in. Lieutenant Weiss, prep the fastest dropship we have." He turned to Owen. "General, I'm taking a Spartan response team to extract Team 7. We can't lose an entire strike team on our 12th mission. It would undermine everything we've built." "Chief, the other operations are still ongoing." "The other operations have advisors and are proceeding nominally," Chief interrupted. "Team 7 is in immediate danger. If we don't extract them now, they're dead. And if we let them die, every federal soldier will remember that Spartans abandoned their own." Owen's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Extract them, whatever it takes." "But Chief, if this is a trap, if the bugs have somehow anticipated our tactics, then we adapt," Chief said. "That's what Spartans do." 20 minutes later, they were dropping through LV-229's atmosphere in a stealth insertion that screamed across the sky like a meteor. The planet was a nightmare landscape. Red sand, black rock, and everywhere the signs of extensive bug occupation. Tunnel networks honeycombed the surface. Massive resin structures rose like alien cathedrals. And in the distance, energy discharges that suggested active combat. "Team 7's last position," Chief said, marking it on their HUDs. 3 clicks from our insertion point. We move fast, extract survivors, collapse the tunnels behind us." They hit the ground running. Chief led with Kelly on point, Fred and Kurt providing overlapping security, Linda moving in controlled bounds to maintain overwatch. The terrain was treacherous. loose rock, sudden crevasses, and everywhere the chittering sound of bugs moving beneath the surface. Chief's motion tracker was a mess of red contacts. Hundreds, maybe thousands. But they weren't attacking. They were watching, tracking the Spartans' movement, but not engaging. "This is wrong," Kelly said over the private channel. "Bugs don't do reconnaissance. They attack or they don't. They don't shadow targets." "They're learning," Chief replied grimly. "Adapting to our tactics. We move fast enough. We don't give them time to coordinate." They covered 3 clicks in 8 minutes, superhuman speed across hostile terrain. The site of Team 7's last stand was immediately visible. A collapsed tunnel entrance, scorch marks from explosives, and blood. Human blood, dried to rust brown in the alien sun. Bodies. Federal soldiers lay where they'd fallen, armor breached, weapons empty. Chief counted 12, the entire strike team except for the 2 Spartan advisors. He approached the nearest body, checking identification. Captain Hendricks, multiple penetrating wounds, died fighting. "Chief," Fred called from 30 meters away. "I've got Spartan 092. She's alive but critical." Chief moved to Fred's position. Spartan 092, Adriana in the records, though Spartans rarely used given names, lay against a rock outcrop, armor breached in 3 places, her left arm missing below the elbow. But she was conscious, helmet HUD still active, emergency medical foam sealing her wounds. "Chief?" She rasped through damaged speakers. "Ambush. New bug type. Coordinators. They knew our tactics. Countered everything." "Where's 130? Chief asked, referring to her partner. Adriana's remaining hand gestured weakly toward the collapsed tunnel. "Went in after the brain bug. Said he could complete the mission. That was 40 minutes ago." Chief looked at the tunnel entrance, deliberately collapsed, tons of rock sealing whatever was inside. His motion tracker showed massive thermal signatures beneath the rubble and something else. A locator beacon. Spartan 130 was alive down there, but trapped. "Fred, get Adriana to the extraction point. Call in medical evac," Chief ordered. "Kelly, Kurt, Linda, we're going in after 130. "Chief, that tunnel is structurally unsound," Kurt protested. "The bugs collapsed it deliberately. If we try to excavate, then we don't excavate," Chief interrupted. "We find another entrance. There's always another entrance." He pulled up geological scans. "These tunnel networks are interconnected. We enter through a secondary passage, navigate to 130's position, extract him. While bugs that have learned to counter our tactics hunt us in confined spaces," Kelly said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Chief confirmed. Kelly grinned behind her visor. Finally, a challenge. They found a secondary entrance 400 meters from the collapsed site, a narrow fissure that descended into darkness. Chief's flashlight revealed walls covered in resin, biological architecture mixing with natural rock formations. And everywhere, the signs of recent bug activity. They descended in tactical formation, weapons ready, every sense alert for ambush. The tunnel twisted and branched, a maze designed by alien intelligence for alien purposes. But Chief's armor was mapping everything, building a 3-dimensional model of the hive structure. Spartan 130's beacon was 2 clicks deep and descending. "He's moving," Linda observed. "Either he's mobile or something's dragging him." "If they wanted him dead, he'd be dead," Chief said. "They're keeping him alive for a reason." "Interrogation," Kurt suggested. "The skinnies might have technology to extract tactical information from prisoners." "Or they're bait," Kelly said. "Lure us in, trap us, study how we fight." "Doesn't matter," Chief replied. "We're getting him back." The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that made Chief's threat assessment algorithms scream warnings. It was massive, 100 meters high, maybe 200 across, filled with structures that looked like they'd been grown rather than built. Biomechanical constructs pulsed with sickly light. And in the center, suspended in translucent resin, was Spartan 130. He was alive. Chief could see his armor's life sign indicators. But he wasn't moving, held in some kind of stasis cocoon. And around him, warrior bugs stood in formation, not chaotic swarms, but organized ranks, like soldiers awaiting orders. Then Chief saw it. The thing giving those orders. It wasn't a brain bug. It was something new. Smaller, more compact, with a carapace that shimmered with iridescent patterns. It moved on 6 legs, with disturbing grace. And when it turned toward the Spartans, Chief saw intelligence in its eyes. Not hive coordination, but individual, strategic intelligence. New bug type, Linda whispered. Tactical coordinator class. The coordinator bug made a sound, not chittering, but something almost like speech. Complex vocalizations that carried meaning. The warrior bugs responded immediately, reforming their ranks, taking positions that created overlapping fields of fire and eliminated Spartan advantage angles. They were using human tactics against humans. "Chief," Kelly said quietly, "we are in so much trouble." The coordinator bug vocalized again. A section of wall peeled back, revealing more coordinator bugs, 5, 10, 20 of them. Each one directing squads of warrior bugs with precision that suggested military training. And behind them, moving with terrible purpose, came something that made Chief's blood run cold. A skinny, but modified, cybernetic enhancements covering half its body, neural interfaces connecting directly to bug biotech. It looked at Chief with eyes that held calculation and malice in equal measure. "Humans," it said in accented but comprehensible English. "You interrupt our work. You destroy our constructs. You teach primitives to fight like you." Its augmented hand gestured at the suspended Spartan. "So we learn from you. Study your methods, improve our forces." "Let him go," Chief said, his rifle trained on the skinny center mass. "Or what? You fight millions of our warriors in tunnels designed to neutralize your mobility advantage?" The skinny's laugh was like breaking glass. "You Spartans are effective soldiers, but you are 4. We are Legion, and we have learned patience." Chief's tactical computer ran the scenarios. Fighting their way out was possible but costly. The bugs held every advantage in this environment. Negotiation was pointless with an enemy that saw humans as resources to be processed. That left option 3. Make the cost of keeping Spartan 130 higher than the value of studying him. "Kelly," Chief said on the private channel. "You seeing what I'm seeing?" "Yeah," Kelly replied. "Biological power conduits feeding the entire chamber. Take them out and this whole section loses structural integrity." "On my mark. We light up everything explosive we're carrying," Chief continued. "Overload those conduits, bring the ceiling down, extract 130 in the chaos." "That's insane," Kurt said. "We'd be caught in the collapse." "Mjolnir armor can handle it," Chief interrupted. "And they won't expect us to deliberately trigger a cave-in. It's the last thing a rational soldier would do." "Good thing we're Spartans, not rational soldiers," Kelly said. Chief looked at the skinny, at the coordinator bugs, at Spartan 130 suspended in alien resin. Thought about every soldier who trusted Spartans to bring them home. About the promise he'd made that nobody under his command would die. "We're taking our soldier back," Chief said to the skinny. "You can let him go peacefully, or we can make you regret keeping him." The skinny's augmented face twisted into something approximating a smile. "Your species' arrogance will..." Chief didn't let him finish. He opened fire on the nearest power conduit, his MA-5C rifle pumping rounds into biomechanical systems that were never designed to take kinetic damage. The conduit ruptured, spraying corrosive fluid. Kelly, Kurt, and Linda followed instantly, targeting every vulnerable system they could identify. The chamber erupted into chaos. Warrior bugs swarmed forward, but the Spartans were already moving, using their superhuman speed to stay ahead of the tide. Chief sprinted toward Spartan 130's cocoon, drawing his combat knife, the blade designed to cut through alien materials. He reached the cocoon as the ceiling began to crack, punched the knife through the resin, carved an opening, grabbed Spartan 130's armored hand, and pulled. The stasis resin fought back, sticky and resistant, but Chief's augmented strength was overwhelming. He ripped his fellow Spartan free as tons of rock began to fall. "Move, move, move," Chief roared, carrying Spartan 30 over his shoulder like he weighed nothing. Kelly was already at the tunnel entrance, her shotgun roaring as she cleared warrior bugs, blocking their escape. Kurt and Linda provided covering fire, their weapons empty magazines faster than Chief had ever seen. The cave-in accelerated, not just collapsing but imploding, as damaged power conduits overloaded and detonated in chain reaction. The coordinator bugs screamed, actual screams, not chittering, as their command center disintegrated around them. The augmented skinny tried to escape, but a falling pillar caught it, crushing cybernetic enhancements and alien flesh with impartial finality. Chief ran through tunnels that were tearing themselves apart, carrying a 200-kilogram Spartan like he was weightless. Behind them, the entire hive complex was dying. Millions of tons of rock-crushing bugs that had never imagined their prey would destroy an entire hive just to save one soldier. They burst from the tunnel entrance as the ground beneath them shook with subsurface detonations. The extraction dropship was already descending, Lieutenant Weiss bringing it in hot despite the flying debris and collapsing terrain. They boarded while still running, the dropship lifting off before the ramp even closed. Chief laid Spartan 130 on the deck, checking vitals. Unconscious but alive, armor systems rebooting from forced shutdown, no critical injuries. "Everyone accounted for?" Chief asked. "All Spartans present," Fred reported from the extraction point, where he'd gotten Adriana aboard a medical transport. "Strike Team 7. Chief, we lost 12 good soldiers." Chief looked at the planet falling away below them, at the collapsed hive that had held new types of bugs, coordinator-class creatures that learned human tactics, skinnies with cybernetic enhancements directing bug forces with strategic intelligence. The bugs weren't just adapting, they were evolving the war itself. "General Owen," Chief said over the command channel, "we need to talk. The situation on LV-229 revealed significant tactical developments. The bugs have new capabilities we weren't prepared for." Owen's voice came back grim. "I'm seeing reports from 3 other strike teams. They encountered similar resistance, coordinator bugs, strategic adaptation, skinny-enhanced command structures. Chief, the bugs have studied our methods and developed countermeasures." "Then we adapt faster," Chief said. "That's the nature of asymmetric warfare. They learn our tactics, we develop new ones. They evolve coordinators, we target those specifically. This isn't over, General. It's just entering a new phase. A new phase that cost us 43 federal soldiers today," Owen replied. "Across 12 operations, we liberated 11 worlds, but lost 43 soldiers doing it. The casualty rates are acceptable by federal standards. But you promised 0 casualties." "I promised 0 casualties for operations under direct Spartan command," Chief corrected. "And we delivered. Every Spartan returned, every soldier we personally led survived. The casualties came from operations where federal teams operated independently with advisory support only. He paused. General, this proves what I've been saying. Federal forces need more training, more support, more integration with Spartan doctrine. 43 deaths is tragic. But compare it to standard federal operations where you'd have lost thousands taking even one of those worlds. Silence on the line. Then, you're right. 43 casualties to liberate 11 worlds is the most successful military operation in federal history by any metric. But Chief, those 43 had families, friends, people who will grieve them. How do I tell them their loved ones died in a successful operation? Chief thought about the Spartans who died over 30 years of war, the brothers and sisters who'd fallen on Installation Aero 4, on Reach, on dozens of nameless battlefields. Thought about the weight of command, of making decisions that saved thousands by sacrificing dozens. You tell them their loved ones died winning, Chief said quietly. Not delaying defeat, not accepting inevitable losses, actually winning. You tell them those 43 gave humanity back 11 worlds and proved the bugs can be beaten. And then you make sure their sacrifice leads to permanent victory, not just temporary reprieve. Another long pause. When Owen spoke again, his voice carried the weight of command accepted rather than endured. Agreed. Continue operations as planned. But Chief, find those coordinator bugs' weaknesses. If they're adapting to our tactics, we need to adapt faster. Already working on it, General, Chief replied. Spartans never stop evolving. Neither will our doctrine. The dropship climbed toward orbit, leaving LV-229's smoking ruins behind. Spartan 130 was stirring, his armor, systems coming back online. Adriana would survive her injuries and return to combat within weeks. Spartan augmentation turning wounds that would cripple normal humans into temporary inconveniences. And across federal space, 11 liberated worlds were beginning the slow process of reclamation. Bug tunnel networks collapsed and filled. Orbital bombardment sanitizing remaining infestation. Federal engineers already drawing up plans to rebuild what had been lost. 43 soldiers dead, millions of lives saved, 11 worlds retaken. By federal standards, it was the most successful military operation in generations. By Spartan standards, it was acceptable, but not perfect. And Spartans didn't accept anything less than perfect. The war was far from over. But for the first time in 5 years, humanity was winning. 6 months after the 12-world liberation, Master Chief stood in Firebase Victor's observation deck, watching federal dropships deploy the latest generation of special operations teams. 200 soldiers, volunteers all, trained in Spartan doctrine, equipped with optimized loadouts, ready to hit bug-occupied worlds with surgical precision. Behind them, another 300 were completing training. The Federal Special Operations Division had grown from experimental concept to strategic necessity. General Owen joined him at the viewport. 32 worlds retaken. Bug expansion halted across 6 sectors. Casualty rates down 70% from pre-Spartan intervention levels. The general shook his head in something like wonder. Chief, you didn't just help us win battles. You taught us how to win the war. You were always capable of winning, Chief replied. You just needed to remember that soldiers are assets to be preserved, not ammunition to be expended. Below, Captain Rasak was briefing his team. No longer a lieutenant leading expendable troopers, but a special operations commander leading elite soldiers who expected to survive their missions. The transformation was visible in their bearing, their confidence, their absolute certainty that they would complete the mission and come home. Spartan doctrine had infected the entire federal military structure. Small unit tactics replaced mass deployment. Precision strikes replaced grinding advances. Intelligence-driven operations replaced acceptable loss strategies. The bugs were still dangerous, still numerous, still adapting. But humanity was adapting faster. Kelly appeared beside Chief with characteristic silence. The Dawn slip-space drive is almost repaired. ONI engineers think they can use federal technology to patch the dimensional rupture. We could go home, Chief. Back to our universe. Chief looked at her, then at the federal soldiers preparing for deployment, then at the star map showing 32 liberated worlds and 14 more targeted for the next operation cycle. Not yet, he said. This war isn't finished. These people still need us. Spartans never die, Kelly said, understanding immediately. We're just missing in action, and right now, we're needed here. Owen smiled, the expression of a commander who'd been given an unexpected gift. Thank you, Chief, for everything you've taught us, for everyone you've saved. Chief thought about the UNSC, about humanity fighting for survival across infinite realities, about Spartans who protected people regardless of which universe they called home. We're all human, General, Chief said simply. That's the only allegiance that matters. On the horizon, the sun set over Firebase Victor, painting the sky in colors that looked almost like Reach, almost like home. But home wasn't a place, it was a mission, a purpose, the endless fight to protect humanity from extinction wherever that fight led. The bugs had learned humans could be beaten through attrition. Now they were learning a harder lesson. Humans led by Spartans didn't know how to lose. They only knew how to adapt, overcome, and win. 46 worlds still waited for liberation. Coordinator bugs still evolved new tactics. The Skinnies still provided technological support to the Arachnid forces. The war stretched ahead like an endless horizon. But Master Chief had fought impossible wars before, had faced extinction and walked away, had turned defeat into victory through sheer refusal to accept any other outcome. This universe's war was just another mission, and Spartans always completed the mission.